Yeah.
You see there's a crack on it?
Yeah.
And there's a crack right in the car pavement.
Yeah.
Are we
And that's
ready,
where the
Jim?
original concrete was.
Okay,
Yeah.
it
And this
is, time
is
is
where
now
they widen the
6:30,
road.
and I would like to call to order the September 11th meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. First on our agenda is the reconsideration of Planning Board Case 12-05, which is a site plan for Haven Grove. That's R9/55. And at our last planning board meeting, a motion was made to remove the first two conditions. And let me read what the first two conditions were, which were approved on July 17th. Condition 1 was drainage located on the town property stays and will be maintained with the rest of the drainage. And 2, maintain the drainage between B and C on your site plan, and that was a site plan that was submitted. And the planning board made a motion and approved the removal of those two conditions. Is there any discussion on it?
We approved the removal after public hearing.
Yes. We're gonna have the public hearing after this.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'm now gonna open the public hearing, and we can continue with the next case.
You're going to ask for public comments?
I did, but can't we, is there any public comment?
I think to explain
Okay.
what happened on the record is that the catch basin in question was installed during the time that the new sewer had been put in because the grade of the road had changed, and there was an error or misunderstanding as to where the exact boundary line was because the monuments had been torn out by the sewer construction. So that the catch basin was supposed to be on John Bernard's property, and it ended up on the town property. And there are no cross drainage easements. So by leaving it there, we're creating a title problem between the properties, and that problem wasn't clear. It wasn't clearly stated at the first planning board meeting, which I apologize for not getting that as clear as it should have been. I contacted Attorney Crean, and we talked about it, and Attorney Crean discussed it with the board. So that's the background.
Now, I believe, Attorney Nix, that on some further investigation, we found that that was not done when the sewer was installed. Is that correct?
Right. There was an indication from Attorney Nix that it was due to the grading and caused by issues coming off of during the time when the retaining wall, when the sewer went in. However, the retaining wall and the grading was done prior to the sewer going in.
Well, okay.
You are correct in some of it. The original manhole cover that I had in there, which is still on my property and is located on the property, was done at the time when the retaining walls went in. But you are incorrect as far as the timing is where the one went in alongside, we'll call it the Grange Hall. And that did go in because when they repaved the road, Park was contracted to repave the road when they put the storage line in. And when they were putting the storage line in, they had an open area, and we had a deluge. It was a heavy, heavy rain, and it washed out between the Grange Hall and my building, was washed out completely from a deluge. So they came in and they built a big berm to prevent it. What it did at that time, it created a ponding area. The ponding area was so deep that it was over a foot. So So I went and I complained to Park, and a guy by the name of Brian, who was running that thing, says, well, what we can do for you is we'll drop off a culvert, a manhole and a culvert, but you're gonna have to install it, and you're gonna have to buy the grate. I thought it was somewhat of a compromise, and I did install it. And when I did install it, I installed it on the town property accidentally, because the pins were removed at the time when they went in and put in the drainage. So that was my error. But I want all that on for the record. I'll testify on a stack of Bibles if that's how it went down.
Okay, well, as I say, you have to pardon me, I've been on my feet all day in the hot sun, so I'm not,
That's okay.
on the meeting on the 28th, we did adopt a motion to reconsider that, and, we took the vote, and it was 8, I'm sorry, and we're gonna reopen the site plan now, so we can discuss things like that, but would someone like to make the motion again to do that, so we can have a public hearing?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to bring the 2 conditions on the drainage for reconsideration to remove those conditions.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now, is there any more comment from the public?
I just want for the record
Yeah.
that I'm in favor of amending the site plan conditions. I just wanted to respond to Attorney Nix's dissertation on what had happened, because I felt that there was some points of it that was inaccurate.
And John, I thank you for your input on that.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right, is there any other comment from the public? We'll have any comment from the planning board? I think we discussed it. Okay, so we'll leave it open now and, nobody's gonna come, all right. Then we'll close the public, I'm sorry, I'm just so tired.
That's okay. You're doing fine.
All right, so the meeting is closed for the public. Next is a continuation.
Are we gonna vote?
Oh, yes, we are gonna vote.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Can we repeat the motion so that we all know what we're talking about?
Yeah. All right,
I made a motion to, the reconsideration to go ahead and, make a motion to remove conditions 1 and 2 concerning the
What?
drainage from the conditions of approval. That was the motion, and it was seconded
and we all voted in favor of it.
last week.
No,
We haven't
just now,
voted.
we
Just
did,
now.
just now.
No,
How
Because
did-
she
really?
called for the vote right after Eric seconded.
But then we had to have the public hearing.
Yeah, then we had the public hearing.
So she
then-
stopped.
Okay,
So we stopped it.
all right.
All right,
So, all those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
opposed, all right. So it's passed with, as amended, and those 2 conditions are now removed, so, all right?
Can I take just a moment, just to say one thing? When I just asked for that motion to be reclarified in front of us, I did that for a very specific reason. I could tell that some of the people in the room were unaware of what we were talking about at that point in time. And it disturbed me considerably when several of the people on the planning board were busy talking with each other while she was refreshing our memory on what the motion was. And I think that's one of the things that's been missing frequently. Discussion, when things should be discussed and clarified, people should be willing for that to happen and should be encouraging it to happen. And when you take someone's motion or gesture to get something clarified, you should be in favor of it instead of looking at them like they're some dumb clock and then ignoring what goes on after that. And
Well, I appreciate what you said, but I didn't really take it that that's what had happened. Norm brought up the point that he thought we had voted, which would have been a procedural thing.
was it, what was it, but he was talking about something completely different.
No, it
No, he
wasn't.
was talking about this.
He was talking about what we did before this.
Well, earlier, before we had to open for a public hearing, Jane had, asked for a motion, I made the motion, we got a second, and,
That's right, and that's what he said, and that was true.
yeah.
That was true.
But
But
then
we
she
were on to
said-
something else.
Well, she then said, okay, we'll start on this, and I said, aren't we gonna vote on it? Oh, no, aren't we gonna have a public hearing? And so that's why the vote got stopped.
And then we had the public hearing.
Right,
And I
And
missed,
then we were going to vote on what happened after the public hearing.
right, but the reason that we repeated and had the motion at that time is because we kinda did it out of order. That's all.
Well,
But I appreciate what you said, and, it makes a lot of sense, but in this particular case, I think although it was a little confusing, I don't think that, anyone was being disrespectful or anything. It's
And-
just, we kinda did it out of order.
And we did it out of order because I'm tired, and I apologize for that, so.
and we
Okay.
appreciate,
Okay.
so we know
All right.
it's been a day.
I did, right, okay. So are we all happy and set and?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry about it,
That's-
and it's my fault. All right, we're going to move right along to a continuation of planning board case 12-7, which is 570 Laconia Road, LLC at Grange Road, R9/53. And I think you made some changes again.
Okay, I have my papers back if you're done with them. And my papers back.
Okay, right here.
Thank you.
And I think I have one here.
Remove this back, remove
I think
this,
this
remove
is,
I didn't mean to give you a whole stack.
this is yours. I want you to take that now. I just don't want to get mixed up. These are saying these.
it around.
You want my folder?
So it would work without
I'm gonna give you the folder of this
stone
folder.
wall, so we're not gonna go through that.
My name is Stephen Nixon, I'm an attorney representing John Bernard. And I apologize, we've had so many iterations of this plan, I just wanted to make sure that I knew where we were. At the last hearing, this plan was continued. My recollection is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it was continued so the board could look at the drainage. And we also offered to remove the retaining wall because there were questions regarding whether that's a structure or not. So those were removed. So we eliminate that and move the parking back a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. Move
We
the
did,
parking
yeah.
back a little bit further from the building.
How much further?
I think it's 7, from the building, it's probably 10 feet now. We moved it back 7 feet from where originally it was. That's shown.
I also drafted an easement that would tie this use over here to the building, the chiropractic building. And that easement, I sent to Attorney Crean, who had suggestions for additional language, which, because this is a little bit of a unique situation, Attorney Crean and I went back and forth on it to get the language that everybody was happy with. And I believe, and Attorney Crean can speak for himself, but I believe that the two of us are there and comfortable with it. And I don't know whether Attorney Crean gave the planning board copies of this easement. Do you have those? But I did bring copies. So. And there's a lot of legal gobbledygook in here.
There always is when you have attorneys, right?
I have additional plans, so if anybody wants one of these right in front of them.
Did I pass my plan down to you?
I usually have another one.
Pardon?
Here's a new one.
Okay.
You're welcome. Anybody else like one?
I think Eric has your original.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, this was in my packet. Maybe I got yours back.
Thank you.
This was in my packet, but I got mine.
But I think that's the original.
I don't know,
And-
those are my packet, so I don't know. I guess I'll take them.
Okay.
Sorry. Easy come, easy go.
Do you have my
Some are a
my
lot
letter?
sealed, and I don't, I gave out all those.
Okay.
I gave you them.
Should be approved. I put them on top of the book,
Okay.
and Richard wanted to see.
Oh, okay.
I have a blue one.
Here it is. Got it.
You want to get
I can steal hers, but.
Okay.
Okay.
And let
I
me-
do have the big one.
Let me try to explain in English, plain English, what we did with this easement. And the meat of it is the second to the last paragraph on the first page, which says that the easement is intended to create an accessory parking for the benefited parcel. And the benefited parcel is the chiropractic building over here. So the intent was to create accessory parking for the benefited parcel, and we added language in there that says that this easement cannot be terminated by the owner without planning board approval. And the reason for that is because it's, even though they're in different LLCs, it's the same owner, and theoretically the owner could release it at any time. But once you say without planning board approval, that means they have to come back here. And if, say the use of the chiropractic center changed and it became a law office with only 2 or 3 clients a day and they didn't need this anymore, that would be one use. The other requirement would be that if there was some other type of development or use of this parking on lot number 1, that would have to come back to the planning board. It would, obviously would, but the planning board would have the ability to look at this to determine whether this parking can be shared or not. So it gives you the opportunity to do that. That's really the meat of what happened. You're trying to tie these 2 lots together. We've talked about this plan numerous times over the last 6 months, and I think that those were the big issues that were raised at the last meeting. So I'll take questions from the board, or
Are you still planning to take those trees down?
yes.
Okay.
Have you had the engineering study to see how that would impact the building? Did we get that?
That was submitted at the last meeting.
I think that only benefits, it only shows you how the retaining wall is affected. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't see anything about
This
the
building there, that's the senior center of it?
This is the garage.
The
It's the
shed.
garage
The
behind,
shed.
the shed, I'm sorry,
Okay.
the shed behind it.
I thought when both the trees were trees on property, so.
The representation, and I believe that, I don't have that report in my hand, but the representation was that the stumps would be ground down, they would not be removed. So just simply removing the trees would not harm the building, because the roots and the stumps would remain, and they would just be ground down to the finished grade. And so there would be no disturbance of the earth in that area. We can, I mean, you can, it might be wise to make that a specific condition of approval if the stump's not being removed.
Where we're seeing the parking that you're proposing there, just there now,
Trees.
Just trees.
just trees.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I guess I have a real concern as to whether these number of added spaces, the 5 added spaces, are going to accommodate what I've observed for the number of cars that are over in the other lot.
Well, at the last meeting, Dr. Jillian was here and indicated how she's going to, or is in the process of amending her business plan, so there'll be a limited number of cars there. And I have to go back and look at those conditions, but I think that was raised at the approval for this lot, for the chiropractic lot. And there was, she's now doing some, and correct me, these free seminars are.
Even tonight, there's one being done at the
Yeah,
high school.
she's actually, she's doing them at the high school. She's moved them off the site because so many people had showed up, totally unexpected.
When
So
did she do that?
Last
just,
week.
yeah, she just started doing
She had a
that.
Last
problem.
week?
Last week
Yeah.
she did. She had a problem last
Yeah,
week.
she had a problem with it and immediately identified it and just got the whole thing
So
right
now
out of
all
it.
of those are done
Okay.
off-site. She's
Yeah.
at the high school tonight.
All right.
Yeah. There was, the problem I think you're talking about was a recent one, and she could,
Well, I have pictures. I went there. I never go there on Tuesday night.
right.
I had an issue that came up and I had to go to the senior center. And I had no place to park.
Right.
It's funny, that same night, I happened to have to go pick up my son at 7 o'clock.
You saw my car
It was
there?
at 7 o'clock at night, or like 6:37, I picked my kid up, he just started school, he was getting out late. And I went by and I said, oh my God. So she has corrected that, and
Okay.
even tonight, she's at the high school. These are free seminars, so I guess they allow you to do stuff like that at the high school, and that's where she is tonight. So she had only the 12 people signed up, and more people showed up than what she did. She was trying to work with the people. It was difficult to get them all out the door. It lasted a half hour, but
I don't,
it did.
I know, I was there a little, I mean, and I couldn't believe the number of people.
I
that
couldn't
were-
either. I know.
Did you see my
I had
car
a heart
there?
attack, man. I was dying.
It's like, oh, no.
Are you kidding me? After all this, you're doing this? And she said, look, I had the sign-up sheet. More showed up. She goes, I didn't expect it to. They're free. What she does, they're free health seminars. So now she's moved to the high school. She's there right now, actually, at 6:30 tonight. So that will not be an issue again. No one's more stressed out about it than I am, because I have the most to lose. Steve, you're gonna flip the page and show me again.
Okay.
Can I just ask you to go
Sure.
over the drainage plan a little bit? I wrote down some things, but you might cover it.
John,
Yeah.
I'll let John.
Okay.
Okay.
Because, and again, I'll try to paraphrase what the engineers said, so I really don't know, but because it's such a small area that we're disturbing, it's a sheet runoff. It will continue to sheet runoff down to here. It gets caught in a little gully here and then moves down. Almost all the water through all this place, even up here, everything eventually ends up in this little rundown. So this is a sheet runoff. All the water will run in this direction.
What about the little brook?
So it's dry today, but the little brook, when it does run, that's over here. That's up here. And the water doesn't go to the little brook. It goes down into the drainage swale first, and then goes along there down to it. I was surprised. This is the first year I've seen that thing dry too. That little brook. So it's a sheet runoff.
Okay, on the front page here, it had a thing about a non-buffer area, non-disturb buffer will be maintained around the perimeter.
Correct.
And the parking lot will be regraded to provide a reduced slope.
Right.
Can you tell me how much of a reduction that you're having in that slope?
I can. We have a topo here, and it just takes me a second. This is 528. I'll try to make it for everybody again. So it's going to be regraded to 526. And over down in here, they have it down, it's still only it's less than a 2 feet, because they would have had another contour, so it slowly slopes in this direction. It has a 4.4%, it says right here.
Okay, 4.4, now what about behind the shed there?
This is a 6.9, and this is a 2%.
Okay, so it goes uphill
Yep.
and then back down.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what I saw when I was there, but I just wanted to go over the change in the grades.
Basically, we still need that, but
Now, over here in this area, the property line to your little roadway,
Mhm.
is that being left kind of natural?
Undisturbed, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe, you mind me asking, is this on your property?
Yes. Goes on. This plan shows it better. Well, yeah.
How much acreage is that?
It's like 2 points.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, yes, Pat, I'm sorry.
May I ask a question at
Yes,
this
you may.
time? When you're first question, how many people on the planning board have actually walked this property?
walk the entire thing?
Where
Not
this,
yet.
where this is, this area right here,
Not there, no.
shameful.
Some of us can't walk that far.
There, this pin right here on the back part of the outbuilding, if you walk 2 feet towards Route 3, you're at a very abrupt decline. Very abrupt decline. So my question is, are you filling in this area here
No.
to put this parking space, or is this map not to scale?
No, that map is to scale, and the contours are all on there.
If you stand at that pin, and walk 2 feet,
Yeah.
you're at a decline, you're dropping off.
It shows it on.
And you can
I
see the
agree with you.
trees.
I agree with you.
So how are you gonna fit a car there?
I think what.
Let me answer this. There's a, there are, for the planning board here, there are 2-foot contours shown on the plan. And she is correct, when you walk this way out here, it drops off. This parking space right here is designed to come in right at the top of that, or right at the edge of that drop off. And you can see the contour line right here, which is the 526 contour line. So that parking space is gonna be on top of that, but it will be, there will be a cut in the grade in here. That's what, goes to your question, which is this solid line right here, that's the 526 line that will bring it over. So that car will come in this location and won't get to the break in grade.
Well, it appears to me, with what you're telling us right now, that one car width beyond that parking spot that we're talking about, the thing has dropped off 6 feet.
That's about right.
So if the driver goes head in, and
That's
he steps
something.
out his door.
So now you have
No,
a car, let me ask this question,
Yeah.
now you have a vehicle traveling in and out of there every day,
Yeah.
several times,
Yeah.
and you have a weight of a vehicle, and you have trees now that, if this be the banking, now going down sloping, you have trees that are coming out at an angle like this. If you have cars sitting on top here with the weight of it, that's gonna push everything down. Where are those trees eventually are gonna collapse? Has anybody engineered that?
Yes,
so
this
that-
is, I'm
This
sorry,
is-
this is all engineered.
This
This
is
is
engineered
just an
plan.
expensive plan that was done by the Turner Group.
Right, this is the, you're correct in that it does drop off over here, but the parking space is here.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is, has that really been considered and taken care of?
Those parking spots,
Well, how about if you put some concrete curbs along here, so when they pull in, they can't go off the edge?
even a guardrail if that's what they
Or a
want.
guardrail.
Yeah, I mean, anything they want for
Fence.
safety, I have no
Right.
problem with that.
Probably not a bad idea.
But that was, it's not what you were talking about, is it?
No, I'm talking about the weight of vehicles traveling there and on the incline, such a
No,
decline
I
in
think they
the,
get what you're saying now.
that,
Okay.
such that you have, during, we lost some of that, you lost some of that during that huge rainstorm for the banking. It eroded some of it. So now you put a vehicle up there and the weight of the vehicle so close to the edge, and you have trees that are already on, uprooted, as you will, and they're leaning out towards Route 3 at probably a 30-degree angle at best. Would you pushing down the earth and with water and wind and rain and everything else, and vehicles now on top of it, how is that gonna affect the banking?
And you're going to put snow storage there.
Well, snow storage is,
Well, the snow storage will just be pushed off the
Yeah.
side.
It looks, where it's gonna be pushed off into the wetlands?
Keep
or-
in mind
No, this is
that that is 1 foot away from our central,
Pat, I don't know
100-year-old
where-
outbuilding that has a stone foundation.
I think Pat asked the question, and I didn't have a chance to open it to the public, but now I'm opening it, it's open to the public since the public's already spoken, but. I have the same, Elaine and I, because Elaine and I did it together, walked back there because Elaine didn't, we had a planning board meeting and she didn't understand. I would think that because this has been so controversial and since it's come up so many times, that everyone on the planning board would have taken the time to go out there and look. It is town property, but I will tell you this, that Elaine and I walked, and neither one of us is too large, and we don't have too big of feet. We had a great deal of trouble walking around the corner of the building without going down. That's how quickly it drops off. That's how steep the incline is. And I think the point is well taken.
Is this the area you're talking about?
This is the area they're talking about over here.
Right
yeah,
here?
but that's not.
No, the other
parking lot.
opposite end.
Opposite that.
Opposite end,
Opposite.
Bob.
Over here?
No,
The corner.
this end,
That
right
one.
there, right
It's
there.
flat right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is solid here,
Mhm.
because we have lawn here, and this is solid, and it goes out further, but this does not.
They didn't interact because they did the engineering on this. and they-
Yeah, that's right, that's what these
They-
contours do.
Right, that's exactly what it shows. Right, but this isn't the area that's gonna be impacted. The area that's impacted
It's
is
just
about
a
5 feet away from
I
it.
know, I'm not gonna build anything that's gonna fall apart. I've built many things and I've never had anything fall apart. So I understand your concern and I understand what she's saying. As someone who's built many developments and many construction sites and has done that, I can assure you, that's the least of our concerns here, is that this is going to slide off down here. I'm happy to put a guardrail in here. I think that's a prudent thing to do. I think that's good development, that's good planning board working with a developer saying, yeah, put a guardrail in there. I'm happy with that. But as far as saying, because you're gonna put a car on this, the car is gonna slide down the hill through rain and erosion and things like that. In my experience has been, I've only been on the planet 53 years, and in developing the last 30 years, I've never seen anything like that. And, I don't know where to go with a question like that, but
If it's engineered correctly, it can be handled.
Right,
That's correct.
That's correct, and it has been engineered. I mean, I went to Turner Group, which is the same engineers that the town used for the storage project. They're one of the better ones known in the area.
John,
Yes.
Only the
I-
design is in.
if I could say something, please, then we can turn back. I guess I'm not so concerned about that, I'm concerned about the building.
I have a,
That's what my concern
and
was.
I appreciate that concern.
And
And
I'm
inside
afraid him
here,
will fall, not a
right,
car.
and I can appreciate that concern. And inside here, we had an engineer with a PE stamp who's licensed by the state of New Hampshire assured us that that wasn't going to happen. So when the last time that was brought up, I went out, I hired the experts, I said, this is what we have here, is that's gonna happen? Engineers are not cheap, I came back with the information, you have a letter in front of you,
Yeah, I found it.
thank you.
Yeah. Selectmen.
I understand.
You didn't have to ask, you would have just did it.
Okay. So, I brought it up before, the well. And there were comments on the planning board and people in the ordinance says, oh, well, the well, so what? I recently had to do a water sample for the senior center because they're going to be using the kitchen and that's required. The person I talked to down there who's guiding us through this is Jennifer Mates. She's in the Drinking Water and Groundwater Bureau. I sent her a copy of our survey for the senior center and the abutting properties, which is required, and showed her where the well was located. She was very concerned. She's extremely upset. This is an email I received from her. I'm reviewing the application you submitted for a public water system at the Tilton Senior Center. It appears that the well is located less than 5 feet from the property line. Ideally, the protective radius for a well would be located entirely on the parcel for that water system. In situations like this, we ask that the owners work with the abutter to establish an easement for the protective radius around the well to prevent potential contamination sources, such as storage tanks and driveways to be placed in the radius. Driveways. Refer to ENV-WS 373-12 for rules regarding easements. This is important for protecting not only the water supplied by the well, but also for protecting the drinking water supply aquifer for the community. Because during our conversation, I also explained to her what was proposed for this property in the close proximity of this to the well. She's very concerned about salt contamination. Even if salt isn't used on this, and the town has experienced that on the Manville Road, cars driving in from the salted road will bring salt in the close proximity of our well. In our phone conversation, if this goes through, the town is going to be, well, actually we have to, whether this goes through or not, just in case it does, I have to do a VOC, volatile organic compounds test on the well, so we have a base to look at. And periodically, if this goes through, that will continue to see if the well becomes contaminated with salt. I have, this is the administrative rules. They have the force of law. And it talks about well location. And before I go any further, I know people are going to say, well, our own parking is close to that well. Well, the proximity of the well on the property of the town to Grange Road, the last test I took didn't show it was contaminated with sodium, calcium chloride. It's very good, the test. We can control the parking on our property. We have handicap parking in the front. We can control whether a car gets parked here, or if this is a handicap drop-off space. We have control of the well. We have no control if this is allowed, no. So, ENV WS 373.11 says that there should be a 75-foot radius around that well. Non-community water system, which is what this is for the senior center, shall be kept at least 50 feet from the edge of road, right-of-ways, driveways, and parking areas to minimize contamination from de-icing salts. That's 373.11.
But it's not that now. It's not 50 feet from Grange Road.
That's right, but here's the traffic on Grange Road. which is about 15 to 20 feet from the well, not 5 feet.
But they're not changing the elevation there, so the water, it drops
They
down.
are changing the elevation.
Yes, they
Not
are.
along the property line, you said.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
They are
they're
changing, they are changing, well, that's my other thing. Turner's letter talks about the drainage ditch that brings water onto this property. Actually, that drains, it talks about it, I'm talking, everybody wait their
Oh,
turn.
I'm just waiting my turn.
The drainage ditch in Turner's letter talks about how it channels the water away, but it actually brings it to a culvert. This culvert here on this property,
Absolutely.
okay? So this is what she talks about, this development, which she talks about changing this terrain of the earth can impact the well. And the town of Tilton has experienced that twice when we had the work done on Noyes Road. We had one well that was contaminated by salt, and the well wasn't moved, it's where it had always been, but because of the design of Noyes Road, the corner came out a little further, we had to replace that well for salt. The other one went dry because of altering the terrain and drainage work that went in. So we've experienced that. My issue is, this property has 2 driveway permits. It has a driveway permit for Grange Road and has one for Route 311, right now as it exists. Why this design? Why not come in from Route 311? No impact on the well, no impact on the building. Utilize this space here for parking. There's also room for parking down here. More parking than this. It makes no sense why we're going forward with this. My other question is, site plan for the town of Tilton says, I've lost it, can't find it. I got it here, right here. It says, to provide for the safe and attractive development or change or expansion of use of the site, okay? How are these pedestrians using this gonna get to this property? There's no sidewalk on Grange Road. Anybody who's driven Grange Road in the winter, there's no shoulder, you're in the road. How are they gonna get from here to here? Safely. That's an issue, safely. How are they gonna get there? There's no plan for them to get there. They can park there.
Well, I
Well,
thought
they're
you said
gonna-
at the last meeting that those were going to be spots for the employees.
Okay,
How those
the heck with the
employees-
employees. We don't want them to have safe passage.
They arrive in the morning and they go home at night. It's
So
not
how do
like
they get from here to here safely?
They
Walk down Grange Road
Yep.
in the snow, in the winter, when there's no sidewalk, there's no shoulder, they're in the traveled way.
Well, that's how we all walk down our roads. Clark Road's the same way. There's no shoulder.
Well,
If I
should
want to
I,
walk, I have to
What-
walk on the road.
what is safe about that development? Provide for the safe development.
But that isn't a
So you're saying we shouldn't be,
That isn't a development.
we're providing parking, it's
It's a
being
site-
developed
site
into a
plan.
parking lot.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
site
being
plan.
developed
Yeah.
into a parking lot. How are we gonna provide safe passage for these people to that? Are you saying we shouldn't be concerned?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I have a
So, like I
question.
said, if there's no hardship here, if this is not allowed, he comes in from this way, no impact here, no impact on the well. Put a sidewalk in or a path in along this property, brings it right over there. And there's plenty of parking on this area. There's tons of parking. Not what, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's questionable.
I assume, now,
Why
I
are we-
appreciate all your questions regarding your well. But I was wondering, with the safety in mind for the well and whatnot, does that mean that you're not going to have cars backing all the way up for deliveries to the kitchen?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's been changed.
That was just a
That-
thought
that was a
of someone on the
brainstorm.
board.
Right.
Okay.
Where's the snow storage for the senior center?
In the back.
What's to say that just regular salt runoff from Grange Road?
It
Or,
ha-
or cars parking, I'm assuming the Grange hasn't been used for a while,
Right.
okay? But a car parking in the front is gonna have salt on it.
In the 100 years that Grange Road has been, that building has been in existence, and it's only been for the past 5 or 6 years, it's not been in years. The water is not contaminated with calcium chloride. No one's changed this terrain at all. The water from Grange Road flows down the ditch into the culvert into this wetlands. It doesn't really sheet too much here. There is some that comes on the other side of the building, but that's only because of the development of this parking lot for Awakening Chiropractor. If you stand there and look, you can see it's all pitched to the Grange. The natural vegetation that was there prevented that from happening. Now that that's disturbed and it's asphalted, it comes to the Grange. But this well is not contaminated with calcium chloride, and that's with all these years of use. Now,
I think another thing that needs to be understood, and I have to get up too if I can walk, I think I can without staggering. But right here, where the property line is, there is a tremendous drop off.
Right.
Yep.
I know that because I almost broke my leg last year. It was kind of funny because I was getting out of the car, talking to somebody, and all of a sudden I disappeared. Okay, now I know I'm short, but I disappeared because I went almost to my knee because it was all covered, it gets covered with leaves and everything else. One of my concerns is that, and I say this because I think I brought it up before. I live in East Derry, New Hampshire, where I knew they would never build across the street. My husband and I used to laugh that we had only 10 acres, but in fact we had 50 acres, and Pat remembers it, because it was underwater 12 months out of the year. All the land across the street and the land next door. Well, lo and behold, one day we got up and these big trucks were hauling dirt in and they were filling. We had to put in a new well and we had to put in a new septic tank because our well went dry because of all the fill. That's one of my concerns. And what's gonna happen? You're gonna have to fill here. That's my concern with the well. You're gonna have to fill all of this because it's a tremendous drop. So what's gonna happen then to the well?
The development of properties should not adversely affect the abutting property. The development of Awakening Chiropractor has adversely affected this property, both with the sheet runoff, because now the puddle is here on this property, and with the issue we have with all the parking up and down the road. And we can't even utilize our property because people from Awakening Chiropractic are there, and that continues. This definitely impacts both this ancient building and the well. And again, there is no hardship if this is denied. This plan, this specific plan of parking is denied, and it comes in from the other already approved driveway permit from DOT and is developed in an area here that is no
And cutting the trees,
abutting property harmful effects.
Sorry.
and cutting the trees is still going to eventually affect that building and the structure of that building. Now, I've talked to several foresters, I've talked to several people that have had sawmills, I've got people that do wood, and they all say the same thing. If you cut a tree down and core it out or grind the stump, eventually that is going to rot and die. If that rots and dies, it is going to affect the integrity of the structure 1 foot away from it. It's a stone foundation. It's not a stone and cement foundation, it's a stone foundation. It was built probably 100 years ago. Nearest we can figure about 75. So, you know, that's a long time ago. It's an antique building, and I would hate to lose it for 4 parking spaces. Please seriously take a look at this. We've given you some really sound information that we've gone out and said this is what is adversely going to affect the property, the abutting property, the abutter.
And I'm shocked that members of the planning board have not gone out and looked at this. And as I say, I personally took Elaine on a tour because she asked what we were talking about. And
We've also looked at hooking up to the Lockmere Water District. The senior center is operating on donations. It's not funded by the town, it's funded by donations. The estimate we got is prohibitive.
How much can I ask?
There is no way that the senior center could raise those funds. So we have looked at alternatives. Right now, the well is necessary. But, like I said, development, and that is development, we're developing a parking lot, we're building a parking lot. That should not adversely affect the abutting property in this way. Goes to the chair.
No, it's maybe, some people have been talking about another driveway into this property which is already approved for Route 3. Where would that be?
I'm sorry.
He's asking.
What's that? I'm sorry, I'm
asking
sorry.
the other driveway on Route 3,
What?
where the other Route 3
Where
cut
was
in
it?
is.
Oh, in here.
It's up here.
Okay. And it's onto this property here.
It is. And it's onto the abutting property. It's a shared driveway, so it goes to this one and to this one, correct?
As I'm sitting there listening to all of this, I'm thinking, okay, where the heck is that
It's
driveway?
up here.
It's 0.09 miles north of Grange Road,
There you go.
on the west side, here's Route 3.
It goes in back here,
That's right from the
all the
permit.
way here.
Wait, what?
Here's the retaining wall.
Well, that's- that's-
0.09.
That's not quite right.
0.9.
The driveway is actually way up here.
The
0.09.
driveway is here, yes, but the land goes back here, Bob.
Now,
Then there's a retaining wall here that is his retaining wall to the property for Awakening Chiropractic.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's what Catherine was saying, if there's a parking area here and put steps up to this retaining
Yeah,
wall.
that's what I'm
You have-
suggesting too. And this thing here is simply a proposal at this point, and we have found all kinds of problems with it. We have a well here, which is a good well.
It's a good well.
And,
I have the test
and
to
it
prove
has a function, it is being used. You know, this.
And it's over
this-
the
this-
aquifer, is
This
that
doesn't
correct?
exist at the present time, this is just a proposal.
I can copy that
With a-
letter if you want
with
to
a
copy
I
it.
think it's a little bit more.
With a proposal, you bring it in and you look at it, and you look at the reasons, the pros and the cons, and it seems to me, if we've already got one approved over there, and this stuff here too, this could be, as she said, could be moved somewhere other around here. The contour situation up here is much less severe than it is down here. We've got, you know, relatively flat area up here compared to what we have down along here. The matter of getting from the parking lot to the other property down here is the thing that kind of makes me scratch my head a little, because no matter what we do up there, is there a satisfactory solution to the problem of getting from the parking lot to what is supposed to be benefiting?
There's enough other usable property that could be designed to accommodate parking that would not have so many impacts on the abutting property, and so many, I mean, hugely negative, that essentially could render that well useless. Which would force
And
it.
it's,
I hate to
and it
put
also
pressure on the
impacts an
guys,
aquifer.
on the people that have been working on this, but I think that what we're seeing here, we certainly are seeing enough conflicting information to justify carrying the study a little further and maybe coming up with something that will work. and has a solvable solution to the problem of getting from the parking lot to the place it's supposed to benefit.
Thank you, Bob, your points are very well taken. I would just, John, we had a discussion a long time ago. I don't know, I know you and I did, I don't know who else was involved, there may have been other people involved, about this very thing, about you're using that lot that already has the driveway cut and putting in stairs that would come up to Awakening Chiropractic. Now, at that time, you said to me, I don't want to do that because the people don't want to walk that far. And at that time, you were talking about, I believe, clients for Dr. Julian. I think that's what you were talking about, clients. You're not going to use those 5 spaces for clients anymore. You're going to use those for the staff of Awakening Chiropractic, which obviously they're healthy, fit people who wouldn't have a problem walking. Why would that be a problem now, to use that lot and those stairs?
There are so many questions being answered. I'd like Steve to answer
Yeah,
them all.
if I could. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to address the issues that were brought up one at a time. But before I do that, what I'm hearing from the selectmen and from some members of the planning board is that this property could be redesigned to protect the town property. In essence, creating an easement for the town property to protect the well. And I have the statute here regarding wells, which it's 485A30 B1B, and it says that private wells serving commercial buildings, which this falls under the definition of a commercial building.
It's not a private well.
Well, if I could, Madam Chairman, during the presentation of the abutters, I remained silent, my client remained silent, as best as I could keep him silent, and I would request that I be able to make my statement without having people interrupt and interject, which throws my concentration off, it throws your concentration off, and it creates a mockery of these proceedings for the planning board. If I could request that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This building falls under the definition of a commercial building, under the state definition, and it says that this well, the entire protected well radius shall be maintained on one or more of the following: on lot, on a record easement, on land which is permanently dedicated to use which precludes development. Now, if this doesn't qualify as a private well and it qualifies as a public well, the same requirements are required, that it have an easement. Actually, they're more stringent requirements that it have an easement. An easement means that the person who owns the well either owns the land or owns a recorded easement. They own it. What is being proposed here is that the selectmen are proposing that the planning board either require this to be redesigned or deny this to create a property right in the town to protect their well. That's a taking of a private property right by a government without compensation and without going through the eminent domain proceedings. There is a claim under federal law that would be made if that's where this is going. The issue that same issue applies to the location of the development on Mr. Bernard's property of the parking spaces. We've submitted, or Mr. Bernard has submitted, an opinion by a licensed professional engineer that states that this development will not impact the building next door. The selectmen have not submitted any professionally engineered documents to refute that. They have simply stated their opinion that they have given sound information, and they have not submitted any documents from professional engineers to refute that. The issue of getting from the parking spaces to this building is a good question, and Mr. Bernard is more than willing to work with the Department of Transportation to construct a walkway from this building down Grange Road over to here.
To make it subject to that, I'd be happy.
And we make it subject to that.
What building did you say?
Or, I'm sorry, from the parking lot.
You can construct that.
Yeah, I must have misspoke. But from the parking lot, it would go in front of the Grange, there would be a walkway in front of the Grange Hall over to the chiropractic building. And Mr. Bernard would be more than happy to work with the Department of Transportation and to pay for that. Mr. Bernard would also entertain offering to the Grange Hall, depending on the technical details and the cost, to hook the Grange Hall up to the water system.
I've offered that before.
And to eliminate that particular issue, which seems to be a big issue here.
In other words, what you're saying is that he would do something to overcome the need for the well.
Correct. Right, because the water's right there. It's, I don't know exactly where it is, but your building's hooked up to it. So
The main line, which is, it goes right to my property, my building, the Grange Hall, is tied into water. There was a problem with one of the gas stations up there, had leached down into the ground, Bendex or something like that, so there was a government that came around and put in this water system, and it's right there on the property over. When this first started, it was one of the first things I offered, the Grange Hall. And they said, well, why would we want to put in water and have to pay for it? And I said, well, one of it, they test it all the time. You know that it's good water. You don't have to worry about anybody checking it out. And it's, you know, it's clean. So that was one of the things.
But John's willing to look at that condition upon, again, whether the cost of this, but, and one of the things that we were talking about when you were talking, I apologize for talking over you, was that John was telling me that his understanding is that the cost for John wouldn't be so significant that he couldn't do that and eliminate the problem. Or what it would actually do would be to put the Grange Hall on public water, which would be a huge benefit to that particular facility.
It's very inexpensive too.
Yeah.
It comes out of the Lockman
So I
District.
I believe that I've addressed the issues. This area in here, again, the topography on this plan, and I have walked down through here and I know exactly what you're talking about. But the way that the engineers have graded this, there would be a slight fill area coming down in that spot that the chairman fell in. Because I think I fell in.
I disappeared in.
Yeah, I think I fell in the same spot, but I could still see.
Okay.
And, but, so these contours do indicate that there would be a little bit of a fill that would fix that. And again, if the well issue weren't there, that particular regrading would have no impact on the water at all. Remember that the well, this particular well is an artesian well, it's a deep well. It's not drawing off the groundwater, it's drawing off the aquifer down below. So generally, artesian wells are not affected to any huge degree by activities around them. That's not to say that it's not important to have.
Can we wait, please?
He's talking.
He is talking and he's asked us to
I didn't say
respect
anything.
that.
I
I
didn't
heard
say
you,
that.
so don't tell
I
me
was
that.
talking to
Please,
Dawn.
you should not have been. I asked you please to not
I have a
talk.
right to talk to the audience.
Not when someone has requested that. I'm chairing this meeting, I believe, unless I have been replaced. Unless I have been replaced, I believe I'm chairing the meeting, and I'm recognizing you, Attorney Nix, to speak.
Thank you. Again, this issue the issue of the well may not or may be solved with the public water supply. And I believe that I've addressed the major issues that were brought up.
You talked about this walkway. How wide is the Grange Road right of way? Does anybody know?
Oh,
Two
Yeah,
rods.
That's what, 32 feet?
Yeah, 33.
I think it's 3 feet.
Okay. That's, so how much land on the Grange side of Grange Road is there from the edge of the pavement to the end of the right of way?
tell me that. You can measure all.
I've been trying to find it on this,
Okay.
but you can't use this scale because this has been.
Yeah,
reused.
right.
Can you ask that question again?
Okay. You're talking about putting a walk
Right.
from the driveway of this proposed parking lot
Right here.
that will cross in front of the Grange building
Right.
to the chiropractic building.
Right.
Where do you propose to put it? On whose property? Within the right of way?
It would be
of
within the
Grange
right of
Road,
way,
yes.
And not on the Grange property
That's
at
correct.
all?
That's correct.
Next question. Is Tilton has been down this road. Who's gonna maintain it?
State.
No, they're not.
Well,
They're supposed to,
well,
but they don't.
you know, that's a good one. I assumed that the state was plowing Grange Road. Am I incorrect on that?
No,
Does
you
the
are
town-
correct, yeah.
Does the town plow that?
No, see.
The state
We
doesn't
don't get
even
any
plow
help from
the sidewalks that they gave us up around exit 20 to the point where the town of Tilton was
Oh.
sued and lost.
Oh, I
You
read
check
about that.
Tinker v. Tilton,
Yeah, I read
and you will find that the state will not
Not
maintain.
We're
can
offering,
make-
but I think that's extreme for what we're trying to do with 5 parking spots.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it a condition that Mr. Bernard would maintain the walkway and, you know, as part of the maintenance of the two buildings. And I think the state would probably buy into that as long as he was doing it.
Well, it's essentially on his property anyway.
Well, it would be the connector out here.
I'm a little, let me just say this, I'm a little offended that you said that we're trying to protect town property. That is not the function of this planning board. We are trying to go by what the site plan design is to protect any abutting property, regardless of who owns it. This happens to be town property, and we happen to have town officials involved in it. That is not the intention of this planning board. So please do not make that assumption or make that accusation, because we are looking at the abutter, whether it be you, John, the town of Tilton, or Jane Alden. That's our concern, so let's go from there. I think Eric had several questions, so.
I do, I have a list. Okay. I think you just kind of offered one, but I'm gonna kind of mix it up a little bit. My question was, they mentioned that the senior center is operating on donations. If Mr. Bedard offered to hook up the senior center as a donation to the public water supply that's available there, would that alleviate the concerns about the well? That's my first question. And the hooking up that versus the cost of putting a sidewalk in, which would now possibly cause other issues with access to the front of the Grange and parking and things like that. So that was one. My other question is, I'm gonna get up this, why not? There seems to be concern about this one particular parking space right here. And not being an engineer, but just using some rough calculations, is it possible to move, since we're not talking about a parking lot that has cars constantly going in and out, move this space over here? And this way you eliminate the concern about the drop-off at this location right here.
The only thing that I would say to that is engineers actually drew it up, and I would think, I don't know, I would have to go back to the board.
No, I'm just throwing it out there,
Right.
let's look at,
Yeah.
let's look outside the box here.
Sure.
And can we move that one space to eliminate the concern that appears to be prevalent.
I'm sure we can do something with that one space.
Okay. My next question is, what types of trees are these that are an issue? I don't remember the types
Oak.
of trees. They're oak. Do we know how old they are?
No, they're big though, they're pretty gnarly branches.
The only reason I say, what's the expected lifespan of these types of trees, and are they possible reaching the end of the lifespan where we have a concern looking at them collapsing onto that building,
Absolutely.
which would be even worse if someone happened to be inside that building while that happened?
Excellent question, the branches are old and some of them are decaying and anybody can see it, doesn't take an arborist to see that.
Okay. My next question is the well. When I hear the word commercial building, it just made me think, and knowing that the use of that well is gonna potentially increase, what is the lifespan of that well? And will it hold up to the constant use? Have there been any tests to see, will that well hold up to the everyday use that a building like that might put on it with flushes, kitchen use,
Can I,
and things like that? And
can I add a little bit to your question here? That well, at the present time, is it utilized by anything other than the senior center?
No.
So it doesn't have an established commercial use besides that building. So
No.
there's, from that point of view, if they had public water, the well would no longer be a significant thing to anybody that's attached to it. If it disappeared, it wouldn't make any difference to anybody except the senior center. And I'm wondering if we are giving an totally unjustified amount of attention to something which could just as well be said, okay, let it go. If it has a use, one of the things that the planning board is supposed to do, besides the other things it does for the town, is protect the water system for the state and for the whole area, for all the underlying places from which our water comes, okay? And if this is a really useful well, and it has a purpose somewhere, then let's do a lot to protect it. If it has no useful purpose for existence, can it just simply become something that somebody did a long time ago and no longer has any value, and let go of it? We have such a hard time letting go sometimes. And maybe this is one of those places where just letting go of something which has no established function besides the one that we can take care of very easily. Why is it being so important?
Bob, I think you brought up protecting the water for the community.
Yes.
And I believe that Selectman Dawson read a letter from when you were, that this does impact an aquifer. So if you, Catherine, would read that part again, please?
This is important for protecting not only the water supplied by this well, but also for protecting the drinking water supply, in parentheses, aquifer for the community. And the Regency states that a study was done when the gas contaminated the wells in Lockmere. There was a huge study done, I have a copy of it. I've never left it in town hall, but there's a huge aquifer that flows under the ground, essentially from the Samberton area, it flows towards the Winnipesaukee River area and the Tioga Aquifer.
Yeah, I was coming from the same place as you were, actually. Yes.
I was just
Oh, I'm
gonna
sorry.
say, Madam Chairman, could we please get a copy of this that she has presented?
Yes, I would like
so
a
that we
copy
have
of that.
something for the file?
I also have a concern if we go with the Eric's, moving that parking space.
Okay,
I'd like to see that parking space moved too,
okay.
because it's such a drop off there.
Right. This is consuming so many people's times, energy, and effort. If you let me move a parking space, I'd love to do it for you.
Okay, but how is that going to, I think that that's going to change all of this. Yeah, but can they match
Right,
up?
I'm just gonna put it over in here.
Okay.
Maybe go this way with it or something, just to get 5 in there. I could put one here.
What if you just took all of these parking spaces and put them up here
You don't,
instead of down here?
because
It's
of the way it flows.
a flat area.
Because of the way it flows, you don't wanna do that. You don't wanna have water flowing towards your parked cars. You wanna have them flow away from it. You wouldn't want that if you were getting out and stuff and it all drains off that way. Drains off that way like this. So, and again,
It looks to me like it drains this way and this
Well,
way and this
see these
way.
little arrows?
And this
See
way.
these little- Anyways, this is how I engineered it to be done. I think it's a good use of the property. I've been here in front of the board since December on this same issue. It's when it started. And the first issue was, you can't park within the 20-foot setback. So I went to the ZBA, and I got that straightened out. It's been on and on and on. Steve, tell me when to stop, but it's the well, it was a setback, it's the trees, let's protect this property. We don't want it to be like that. And this is a good use of the property. I can even see myself in the future, the town being parked over here. Sometime Jillian doesn't need it, the town's expanding, the town's overflows when they go with their parking every Wednesday night. I know, what do you guys do on Wednesday night there? I can't figure it out, but I know.
Music.
What is it?
Yeah, music.
Music, so the parking overflows, goes into my parking lot. I don't say anything, no one's using it this Wednesdays. I have photographs, we don't need to go there. I'm just saying someday the town's gonna end up using this property. I mark my words, someday at the parking. That Grange Hall is expanding, and we've sunk a bunch of money in as taxpayers, and we're gonna continue to spend some more money. I'm willing to help out and put the water in. I don't know if I'm saying too much, Steve, but anytime you can shut me up.
Selectman Dawson. Thank you.
H.L. Turner, the expert. A roadside ditch intercepts most runoff from Grange Road, channels it away from the parcel. Well, there is a roadside ditch. There's a roadside ditch here and here, but there's also a culvert. There is a culvert in here. I've shown it to a lot of members of, Conservation Commission. I think I showed it to Jane. There's a culvert and the ditch to supply it, so they missed it. The experts missed that culvert. It's not a private well to a commercial building. It's called a non-community water system. And that's why Jennifer Mates referred to the administrative rule for non-community water system. So it's not a private well or commercial building. That's why this applies to it. And if the sidewalk's put in on Grange Road, I'm not sure how they're gonna get by this telephone pole without encroaching onto town property. It's just, I don't see how it's gonna work. Where's the snow gonna go? Are you expecting the state to plow the snow somewhere so we don't have to deal with it all along there? I don't get it.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to Attorney Nix. I was answering John Bernard's question when I was talking out of line. My question is the right-of-way and the walkway going into currently the town of Tilton plows that right-of-way in front of the Grange. And, Selectman Dawson does have a good point. You can't get a walkway, a walk path in front of the telephone pole. You have to become in back of the telephone pole, which would be encroaching onto town property. and who would maintain it? Currently, the town of Tilton maintains that right of way, because the state doesn't maintain it, we do. I do like the idea of that one space being moved onto the other side, makes me feel a little bit safer. I also, still have a concern, because yes, I don't have it in writing, you're absolutely right, Attorney Nix. Maybe we can approach the selectmen to spend some money on engineering designs, if that's what needs to happen. However, with the amount of people that I've spoke to in forestry, trees, arborists, or tree work, period, you take those trees down and grind them down. I have a concern about this affecting, over time, the integrity of that building. That's my concern. End of discussion. Oh, I have one more thing, I'm sorry. Last month's discussion, when you did a site plan approval for Awakening Chiropractic, there were 17 spaces approved. And Dr. Jillian had stated that she has limited her classes to 12 people. Has anybody taken a second look at, is the Awakening Chiropractic parking lot right now as it exists with the staff acceptable with 17 parking spaces? And is there really a need for the extra 5 spaces that's going to adversely affect the abutter?
John, would you like to address that?
I don't know what to say.
This is the application that's before the board.
Yeah, I Googled lifespan of an oak tree.
Oh, what is it?
Potentially 200 years. That said, I have no idea, we have no way of knowing how old those trees are. Though I haven't walked the property, I have driven and observed the property. I guess my ignorance of being new on the planning board, I didn't realize I could walk on someone's private property to observe that.
You don't have to walk the private property, you can walk the town property.
Correct, but I, you know, to see the full slope, I think you would have to walk onto the property there. And, but I see, you know, from the pictures that we've seen of those trees leaning over that building, and I understand the concern of that, and perhaps if they were left as trunks, would that prevent the concern about the root rotting? You know, if they were 10-foot high trunks, would that prevent the tree? I see an issue there if, I see an issue of we're battling here over things. And there's a proposal here, a gift, whatever you want to call it, donation's been offered to the town, and I don't know how the town deals with that, of hooking that up. If someone offered to hook up my water, I would take them up on it, but that's me. But if those trees were to come down this winter due to a heavy snow load, you know, onto that building, you know, who would ever thought that the Winnisquam section would have had a microburst and all those trees taken down? And I see that, yes, they are pine trees and they are different, but oak trees, I spend a lot of time in the forest and trees fall. And I see the United States Parks Department, or whatever, Department of Agriculture, who's responsible for the National Forest, where I spend most of my time. They go through every year and they walk trails and they cut trees that are potentially a liability, though they own all the land. But they look at all the trees and they cut down the ones that are a potential liability, and they do the same trails every year, and I've witnessed that because, as again, part of my job outside of here, I spend time out in the forest and I see that being cut down. And I do see that if the town forces them to, Mr. Bernard, to keep those trees up, you know, as a taxpayer, and he comes back and you know, who's the town, if the town goes after him, you know, we restricted him from going, and I just see a nasty lawsuit going on. But, you know, I just see, from those pictures, I remember those trees leaning over pretty good, and, you know, maybe the solution is to cut them 10 feet off the ground. That's where you're not gonna grind down the stump and cause rot. You know, maybe the tree might start to grow again, and in 100 years from now, the planning board will be back here talking about those darn trees again. But maybe, again, I'm trying to think outside the box of potential solutions here to make everyone happy. You know, and just throwing it out there.
I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. If that makes everybody happy, just to leave them as tall stumps. That takes longer for them to decay.
My brother is a sawyer and a logger. My father is a sawyer and a logger. My great-grandfather was a sawyer and a logger. I have a little knowledge of trees. Oak trees, the root system, deciduous trees, maple trees, oak trees, their root system is typically as large as what you see above ground.
There's the tree above ground.
All trees
Yeah, right.
will drop limbs. That's what trees do. As they grow up, they will drop limbs. Oak trees, as maple trees, very seldom blow down. Very seldom. Pine trees, because of their shallow root system, typically blow down. The trees that came down in the microburst were pine trees because of their shallow roots and sandy soil. There's no danger of those oak trees blowing down or falling down anytime soon. If the trees are cut and left with a 10-foot stump, you've killed the tree. So the tree will still rot. The trees that they are, there's no liability for the abutting owner. It's an act of nature.
So if one of the big branches breaks out and comes down and crushes the building?
Or kill somebody.
It's an act of nature. Yeah.
Well,
That could happen to, one of our trees on Main Street could fall down
Stand up,
and
Steve.
land on a car. It's,
for the record, last December, the New Hampshire Supreme Court issued a decision, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but I'm gonna call it the tree decision. You can find it on the website. And what they said was, after they went through this big, long dissertation about the history of trees and the question of whose responsibility it is, they said, if there's a tree on the property and it looks like it's a problem and it's obvious, and then the tree falls, you're liable for it. Mr. Bernard is identifying those trees on his property, as did some of the members of the planning board, as leaning over the abutting town property. And it's unknown how long they're gonna stand. If he's required to leave them there, Mr. Bernard would be looking for some type of indemnification from the town, some type of waiver of liability that those trees, because he's saying he wants to take them down, and one of the reasons is for safety. And under the law, if he's required to leave them there, he needs some type of indemnification from the town.
Can the town even require me to keep it?
Well,
I don't think we can do that.
that's a different.
I don't think we can do that. I mean, if I were in your place, John,
Yeah.
and I decided that there was a tree on my property that was endangering my neighbor's property, I would remove it.
I agree with you, and you would think that I would have actually removed it before I got here. But as I referred to my attorney, when I go to do any work out there at this particular phase, because I'm in the planning board, it would be construed that I might be out there starting construction without my proper permits. So I have held off and waited.
I recognize the difficulty of your position and the difficulty of our position, but I think a lot of a significant portion of what we're fighting about, we shouldn't even be discussing. You have your rights within your property. You have a right to protect yourself from danger. If you're in a position where you think maybe you're endangering somebody else, you almost have a need to go ahead and take care of that, if you can and if you're willing to. And somebody else says you can't, you know? I mean, like, 2 of their trees fell onto my pasture last winter, okay? And I just told them about it, and I said, John, would you like to make firewood out of them? And sure. And a few days later, I looked out back. While I was sleeping, John, he was out there and took the trees out of there.
Wasn't it? Was the gremlins?
And they're gone. But I mean, you know, people should be a little more reasonable with each other. We should care more about each other and not worry so much about, I don't know.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I happen to have a lot of trees on my property. And every year we walk through, and any tree that looks questionable at all, even if it's bloomed out, if we're having a lot of limbs dropping or anything like that, we cut the tree down. Because I don't need it falling on someone. I don't need it falling in the road and maybe crushing a car. I mean, you know, whatever it might be. And since the state did change the rules and they are holding property owners responsible for their trees, it's, you know, it's an awesome responsibility that we don't take lightly, and I'm sure you don't either. And I don't feel that as a planning board or the town has any right to tell you, you have to keep a tree or you have to cut a tree down.
I don't think that somehow or other we've gotten into this Winnie the Pooh discussion on the nature of trees, and I don't think that's the intent, or that was not my intent to get into this big discussion about trees. I thought the intent of the planning board was to fairly and equitably look at the person who's into the planning board as well as the abutter. The tree issue from unless I'm off in Never Never Land, and I could be because I'm very tired, the tree discussion came up because of the possibility of damage to the abutter's building. That's why it came up, not to talk about, so, I mean, I don't want to get off base on talking about the nature of trees and get into that kind of thing. I think our concern is what it might do to the building if we took the trees down. And Attorney Green.
I think there's as I understand it, from what I've been here, the question started with the trees as to whether or not removing the trees would damage the foundation of the building.
Correct.
It has evolved into, if the trees are left there, what happens if they fall, if there's a limb or worse falls on the building. That's a different issue than what we started with.
Correct.
And the letter that I saw from the engineering firm speaks to the foundation with regard to the retaining wall. That's a different issue than whether cutting the trees and grinding down to ground level and just leaving the stumps and roots in the ground would damage the foundation. I've had a number of trees removed this year because I put in a solar system and I needed the sun. And I can tell you, just in, you know, I don't know what it's going to be, what those root systems are going to be like 15, 20 years from now, but they're like cement in there now. I don't know, you know, I don't know the age of the trees. I have big oak trees on my property, and limbs fall down all the time, okay, because they're old. The trees aren't gonna fall down, I hope, because if they do, it'll fall on my solar system. But the limbs fall down. I represented Plymouth years ago. They had a tree that was located on college property, and it fell onto a car traveling on Route 3. So the town shouldn't have even been involved in it, but the town got sued because they were a tree city, and they undertook to inspect the trees. And they were told in the lawsuit, it claimed that they should have known, because they looked at the tree, that it likely was gonna fall down, which basically falls in with the way Attorney Nix described the lawsuit. If you're aware of something and you don't do something, or if you uncover something and don't do anything, that's no longer an act of God, that's negligence, and then you can be held accountable, okay? So, I think my recommendation would be that, I'm not sure that cutting trees and leaving them at a 6 or 8 or 10-foot height, I mean, those trees are gonna get diseased and they're going to be problematic, because trees aren't meant to live that way. I don't think that's a solution. The concern that I have is that the engineering study addresses the retaining wall, not the prospect of removing the trees and just grinding down to root level without disturbing the soil. What I know about trees is if there's going to be an issue, that's going to be long-term, but that building is long-term. One way to approach this is to require occasional monitoring of the conditions on the site and addressing them if it appears that there is degradation going on that would adversely impact the foundation, and that can be imposed as an ongoing condition of approval. And so that if something just, if it looks like the foundation is moving, if it looks like roots are coming up or whatever, there are ways to address that on a continuing basis. Ideally, I would like to see some sort of engineering study that addresses the roots, not the retaining wall. So it seems to me that we can move on from the trees, because I think that's a solvable issue, as long as there is ongoing monitoring of the condition and making sure that problems don't occur.
Thank you. I have 2 hands up, don't know who.
I just have something quick
Yeah.
to add to Attorney Crean's addressing the trees. My concern is, and I think we got away from it, was not the tree itself, except the root system. And let me give, last month when we spoke about it and the month before that, we talked about the root system growing underneath the outbuilding. And that is my concern, because we put a floor in the outbuilding in early March, April. We had to level that, and it took quite a lot more time and energy to make that level, if in fact, because you can see the root system, it's a dirt foundation, it's a dirt floor in both compartments. When you look at it, you can see the root system, and the floor goes up like this. If you're gonna cut the tree, kill the tree, the root dies, does our building now come back down? Does it now come back into a spot where it's now going to cause us repair? That's my concern. The trees are not my, that portion of it, we got a little bit out to the west a bit. So that's my concern. We've already done it with the floor for our medical equipment, and we've had to raise it directly because of the root system of the trees. Now,
Well, when you decide to to do something to your building, yours or anybody else's, or any building that you want to talk about, you are going to find problems that exist because the world changes all the time. Everything changes all the time. And it's something we have to, at some point in time, we have to say, look, this is what happens. I got up this morning and this is what I found. And that's my problems for the day.
I think there's a solution though. I mean, I think there's a workable solution.
And there isn't any way to here today know what all the problems are going to be for the next 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000 years from now. They're just going to change every day. And we can't stop that. It's life. And
All right, these are the things, okay, Catherine.
I have nothing to say about trees. It was mentioned earlier, suggested that our well was an artesian or a bedrock well. We have found no information, no invoices, nothing that would indicate such. The only information we have is that there was a well dug on the property in 1918. Which certainly a driveway being installed and the terrain of the earth being changed and the wetlands diverted would affect that well, especially so close to a dead well.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to say?
Yep, I do. Thank you.
Elaine?
I know, John has offered to have us hooked up to city water, town water. But the town does not fund the senior center. We have to run on donations. And I know what my water bill is like. I almost had a heart attack the first time I got it. So,
Yeah, this is Lockman, I just say it's different, it's cheap, I'm just.
okay, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. I pay $40 a quarter when I run my irrigation all the time. The water's so
moving there.
unbelievable cheap.
Okay.
That's why I tried to save it for, it comes out of the lake, they pump it, they clean it, it's cheap.
Okay, I just don't want it to,
No, it's not.
a hardship, on the senior center, okay?
Right, no problem.
Is the big thing.
You can help with that.
Okay,
All right,
good, thank you.
I too think there is a workable solution to every situation. Now, so far, I have 4 different conditions. If anybody can, I don't know whether I'm making sense with what I'm saying, because as I said earlier, I'm a little weary right now. But I have Mr. Bernard hooking us up to town water. Okay?
Pay the bill.
No, we're not paying the bill.
You know what you just
I
said?
tried to help you, what I was gonna tell you is that by the electricity that you pump or run the pump for water and stuff like that, you have to pay for that. That almost offsets, I don't know how much a pump costs, but it costs money to run them.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I thought you said you were.
No, I have a
Sorry.
solution for you where we're going, I didn't get the.
All right,
Nice
all
try.
right,
I'm going
let's,
broke.
John,
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
while you're ahead, okay?
It's
Town-
terrible for-
Town water, Mr. Bernard will hook us up to town water. I hook the senior center up to town water. Mr. Bernard will agree to move the location of 1 parking space. Okay, and that is, since these are not numbered, I don't know what the parking space it is, but I can put a big X on your copy, John.
That's fine.
I think you know which one it is.
The one closest to
The
Route
one's
3.
closest to Route 3.
Farthest from Grange Road.
Yeah,
The
Sorry,
southeast
we're not gonna be difficult.
all right? That Mr. Bernard will agree, and I don't know how, this is what I don't know how to put, to monitoring of the trees on that property. How can we, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
don't you?
monitoring the root system from
Yeah, the
there.
root system. I don't know, I don't even know who you go to see about doing that. I guess first of all is my next thing is we need some kind of report from the engineers about the impact of those trees being taken out, or being left in, or cut and the root system ground down. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, would you, I mean, that, I see that if you could get that kind of a study as opposed to the impact of the retaining wall.
Yes,
That might alleviate some of the concerns.
yes.
Okay? And then, in conjunction with that kind of a report, we could you could probably find out from that engineering who you would see about someone keeping an eye on those on a predetermined time, like every 5 years.
Okay.
Just, I had, in one of the municipalities that I represent, they had a building problem, and one of the solutions was that the builder who built the building would agree to pay for a surveyor to come out periodically and see whether or not the foundation moved on the building, to see, because they varied from the way the plan showed, the way they constructed it. And rather than make them tear it down and build it back, the solution was basically to go out and periodically look at it and see if the foundation has moved. And if it doesn't, there's no problem. So that would be the type of condition. And again, getting a recommendation, I think, from the engineering firm as to what type of study, survey, and its frequency would be a good way to do that.
And I would hope that we're not going to have a frequency that makes it cost prohibitive to you, John. That's not our intention. Our intention is to protect the building on the abutter's property. Okay?
Okay.
I would also like to get a copy of that letter. Have we arranged that, Catherine? Because I'd like to check into that in more detail.
Put the water in.
Hmm?
Sorry, I spoke and I shouldn't have. I said about putting the water in the well is kind of irrelevant, but that's okay.
Putting what?
The water in,
Put in
the
town
well
water
becomes
in the well.
irrelevant.
Oh, okay. All right, can anybody think of anything, so add a condition to that, I think that we're looking into that aquifer situation, that letter.
I
I'm not
have
thinking.
a condition that, because they talked about putting in a walkway from the entrance of this parking lot to their building. Instead of seeing a walkway built, I would like to see Mr. Bernard agree to just wing the snow back along the frontage from this property to his other property, you know, so that people can walk safely off the pavement to get from one to the other.
I'd be happy to do that. I do.
Because I don't think,
You're putting them onto private property.
No, just do it.
be putting it onto his property and the town's property. Yes, that's understood. But how much of that frontage is plowed by the town? All of it.
With Attorney Green, you sure? And mark that down, okay?
One of the issues that arises here is that if they're going to be walking along, whether it's along something that John puts in, whether it's something that is just, he wings back snow, presuming that that snow gets pushed somewhere other than on the senior center property. And the town will also be doing its own work over there. So if somebody walking along there slips and falls and has a significant injury, falls into the path of traffic, breaks a leg, breaks an ankle, those things happen. The question is, and then they turn around and say, the town, you didn't sand that area and it was icy. Okay. Now presumably, the town's gonna wanna do as much as it can because it's got senior citizens using the property. However, the town's not out there 24/7. And so the difficulty that arises here is if somebody is using that property and the town has not been able to get out there, I don't know whether or not, I thought this through completely, but I think there'd have to be some sort of waiver or agreement to indemnify the town for people using that road if something, the walkway, if something should happen. Because the town is not out there trying to keep that, and the state won't do it. We have Route 3 running through Pembroke, and I can guarantee you that the state having that only exacerbates the problem that we have of trying to maintain the sidewalks on Route 3. And we can't do it because the snow gets plowed there, and there's a, not last year, but years before, there was a ton of snow that the state puts on there, and it freezes hard as a rock. And we can't, with the sidewalk plow, we can't do anything to get that snow off those sidewalks. So we just can't maintain our sidewalks in Pembroke on Route 3. We can't.
Be careful.
So, I mean, if we tried, I mean, so people are walking in the street, but there's nothing we can do about it because the state plows the snow and it goes onto the sidewalk. There's no other place for it to go other than on the sidewalk.
We got it for
So, I mean, the idea of a walkway, a designated walkway is certainly better than somebody walking in the street, but I think there needs to be protection put in that people using that, by virtue of their being able to park there, will agree that they won't sue the town.
I think that sounds like a lawyer deal to me.
Yeah, but you two guys
I think, yeah.
I mean, Steve and I can talk about
No, I know.
language to do that.
I thought of how we might word what we need to do is to investigate the impact of the site plan on the aquifer, okay? In other words, we haven't seen that letter, but I think we need to talk with the people there. I don't wanna, I'm so I can't say that on tape. I can't say it. I'm really tired of seeing you, John. I mean, we've just gone, this is dragging on and on and on and on. And more is coming up. Okay, that's why I'd like to get this down to exactly, when I hear one of the selectmen that says there is a solution, I mean, that's what I've said all along, there is a solution, and I think you and I have talked about that, John, so where we come up with it.
Right.
I'd like to see us well on the way to a solution tonight, so that we don't have to continue to meet like this.
Not much you want to do with the board.
Okay, no, seriously.
Come over to the town and join the
This
board.
could go on for the next 6 months, and I don't want it to do that.
To achieve that,
Yeah.
my recommendation would be that you do a preliminary approval with conditions tonight, stating exactly what has to be done to make that final.
Okay.
And then you would not schedule a compliance hearing on that until you receive the information that's been requested.
All right, and that's what I was trying to come up with, as I say, I'm not, all right, yes, so let me
You
know.
could make one of the conditions, no salt to be used on the, whatever is developed for parking lot.
Well,
Does the town use it on it?
Well, if
We have
the
no salt roads,
if
but we
the
have to-
town's water supply is hooked up to the municipal water supply, the salt becomes irrelevant as to the well, so.
Salt in that road?
Well, John, if the town's water supply is hooked up to municipal water supply, it's irrelevant whether there's salt used or not, because the well would be discontinued.
It's still a huge wetland.
The other thing is the state is salting that whole road, along that whole, Where you been, my friend? Oh,
Is that close then? You need a round count?
Let's see right here.
If you're ready to deliberate,
Yeah.
and then close to the public, so that there's no more discussion. So that we can go into.
Leave.
You're in
I was
front of
trying
the
to be
camera
quiet
there.
over there.
Oh, I didn't realize it was there.
You're getting
Oh, that was
everyone in
good.
trouble tonight, John. You're gonna get, I'll sit in the corner, time out.
All right, this is gonna be close to the public. Are we ready to grant a conditional approval? Preliminary approval based on the following conditions. Mr. Bernard will assume the cost of hooking up the senior center to town water. Number two, that Mr. Bernard will relocate the parking space nearest Route 3 to the, what corner is there?
That's northwest.
The northwest corner.
It is.
That I know, but I was gonna put 4 before 3, because I thought it made more sense. That Mr. Bernard will secure an engineering report on the impact of removing / stop grinding the trees located at the corner of the shed on the town property.
So just the corner tree?
Would be all along the building.
Well, I guess the ones all along the building, yeah, but I think it's the ones on the corner. Yeah, all along the building.
Along the back
Yeah.
of the shed?
The sheds, okay. I don't know how we should put the monitoring of the trees. Can someone help me with the wording of that? The roots,
There should be periodic monitoring of the remaining stumps and roots and how they may affect the foundation of the buildings
Oh,
by a qualified,
arborist.
I thought we were going to have the monitoring if he left the trees so that they could come out and let him know when the condition of the trees was such.
No, the monitoring is regardless of what happens.
Over and
Okay.
above.
yeah,
And
Okay.
it's,
because it's the root system that will affect.
Yeah,
Right.
and I don't wanna leave it at periodic monitoring. I think maybe we should set a time frame.
well,
Every
my
5 years.
recommendation is that as part of the engineering report that you're requesting on the impact on the front, of the tree removal and stump grinding, that include their recommendation for
More monitoring.
for the type and the frequency and extent of monitoring
Okay.
that would be appropriate.
All right, good. And then additional investigation on the impact of the site plan on the aquifer referred to in whoever that letter is from. Okay. You have the letter, copy of the letter?
No, I
You didn't get a copy of it?
no. You're talking about the one
Mhm.
Catherine had? No, she hasn't given us one,
Okay, so,
but we need to get it because
yeah,
right now,
is Catherine still here?
is she still
I
there?
can see it already.
She's out front.
Jane, you wanna go over that one again, additional investigation?
Additional, just a minute. Additional investigation of the impact of the site plan to the aquifer. Cited, yeah. Did you hear that, CITED? In the, whatever the date is on that letter, you getting it? Okay. Just gotta get the date on that. The next one, and hopefully the last one, is a walkway, easement, walkway easement to be determined by
I'm sorry.
the walkway easement.
You want an easement, I think.
Okay,
What
indemnification.
I'd suggest is installation of a pedestrian pathway along Grange Road satisfactory to the Department of Transportation and with appropriate waiver of liability for the town.
You get all that?
No.
Hmm?
I'll read it again.
Okay.
An installation of pedestrian pathway along Grange Road satisfactory to the Department of Transportation and with appropriate waiver of liability for the town. If I may, the other condition is including the easement that Steve and I worked out, that assures that this is, that there is a property use agreement for this property by the chiropractor.
Chiropractor. You have that?
I've got it written down, I don't know what she
Just a
did.
property use agreement
Okay.
approved by
Yeah.
council for the planning board.
Now,
Which effectively is done.
now, are there any, this letter, by the way, is a letter from DES dated August 30th, 2012, by Jennifer Mates, from Jennifer Mates.
Madam Chairman, on the first condition, connecting the senior center, I think that needs to be added, that's subject to approval of the town board of selectmen. The planning board can't mandate.
Right, right.
So, that is, that he would pay for connection to the senior center to
Yeah.
public water system, subject to approval of the board of selectmen.
Well, if I hadn't run Joe out, we could have gotten
Arrange
that
for
tonight.
connection. That's fine. I changed that instead of pay for, just arrange for connection.
Okay. At his expense.
To arrange.
At his expense.
Steve, this is a big point that you're following off. I can connect, I can put that stuff in. I've done
All right, is that something we can live with?
I'm a little concerned about the wording, because I installed, I can install the water lines, and they inspect it to make sure that it's done to their specifications. So you say that it's, I'm paying for it, I'm installing it, I may end up doing it myself, as long as I have to work, this is a whole big process that I'm gonna go through with,
How about saying arrange for the installation?
that would be perfect.
Okay.
Or installing,
proper.
just being responsible for the installation, proper installation.
Installation connection.
Okay.
And leave it simple. Don't complicate it.
Okay.
We do tell you to do that.
All right. Anybody have any comments?
Oh,
John?
Move on.
I'll second your motion.
All right, all in favor?
Say amen.
Aye.
Amen.
All right,
Oh, you
Thank
know
you.
what, you forgot?
I have no idea at this point.
Yes, if you're going to require a compliance hearing,
Yeah,
then you need to have that in your conditions.
okay.
Well, that's implied, because these are not, I mean, this is not getting a permit from
Right.
somebody else, so it's required that there be a compliance hearing
Yeah, but
in order
generally,
to determine whether or not the conditions have been met.
and generally in this town, the code enforcement officer, once he's checked everything off, they were required to get, and he'll issue a permit. But if the board wants a compliance hearing where they have to come back, once all that's been done, and then they need to really say that.
My client won't.
All right, let's say that then. I want to see John one more time. That's short and sweet.
All right, so that would be the last question. Once all the conditions have been met, a compliance hearing will be scheduled to go over everything.
Thank you for the board's wisdom.
Huh?
No, it-
Can we take a break?
Yes. 5
Do you
minutes?
mind?
Recess.
5
a
minutes?
recess?
Oh, no, he might not want to
Can
come
I
back and
announce
see you.
Turn that off. I have an announcement to make.
Wait a minute.
Turn with Mr. O'Brien, so.
I got a little gavel at home. They gave to me years ago when I became president of the horse club.
Don't give her a
And
gavel.
Sylvia.
Don't give me a gavel.
I'm
I'm gained.
All right, dangerous enough
They
now.
really were,
Thank you, sir.
really do.
Sorry about that.
All right, at 7:15,
Yeah,
at 7:15, we're supposed to start the public hearing on changes to the driveway section of the subdivision regulations.
But it's 8:50.
It is now, what?
8:50.
8:50, we're opening the public hearing on changes to the driveway section of the subdivision regulations and to the driveway permit conditions of construction. Okay?
You want to read what the differences are?
I don't, it's kind of all over,
It's all over the place.
yeah. That's the changes that we made right there. Right on top is most of the changes, and then we changed the driveway, and I just printed out a whole bunch for everybody to look
All right,
at.
I'm gonna pass these out to everybody.
Just go over the changes and
And
then
I'm
you
just
move
gonna
on.
go over the changes, exactly. Thank you, Mother.
You're welcome. Only because you're so tired.
I am very tired.
Yes, sir.
She wants to go celebrate.
I'm gonna go celebrate.
By going to bed?
Then going to bed. All right, number 5, page 39. These are the Town of Tilton subdivision regulations.
Right.
All right. Under number 5, you see 400 feet.
We changed it now.
Yeah. Under number 7, we changed where it says,
We changed that one completely to read the same as the number
it's
11.
number 11, okay,
Permit.
on condition of construction for driveway.
Okay, that's it, then we went to the
Okay.
driveway permit.
And then,
Then on the driveway conditions of construction.
that's page 38, right?
No, driveway conditions of construction is the other page where we made changes to agree with this and to fix
Okay,
one.
yes,
In the
okay.
back, yeah.
On page 38, yeah. Change it, where it says 300, number 5, where it says 365 feet. That's
Yeah.
being changed to 400 feet.
Yeah, that was all done, it's all on page
Okay.
39 now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and everything, all of that part is now on page 39,
yeah.
all right?
But on the conditions of construction for the driveway permit, we changed number 4 to match.
Yeah, we changed number 4 to read the same as
At
number 9,
Right.
okay?
And then we corrected, number 8, we corrected the 400 feet on that too.
Yeah,
Okay, when you say number 4 was changed to read the same as number 9,
Number 9 in the subway,
in the
And
subdivision.
subdivision, right.
Okay,
um. Most of these things are just changes that make them the same,
make them the same or bring them up to date
I
with
bring
what
them
the
up to
state
date,
regs are.
okay? So those are the changes.
So
Any
let's open.
questions, comments?
Now that one you can leave open if you want, leave it.
Yeah, I'm going to. All right, here's a diagram if anyone wants to take a look at it. You've got that
It's in our
little
packet,
handout.
yeah. And then-
All right, moving right along, we're gonna leave that open. Is planning board case 12-10. It's a site plan review for Jaguar Auto Wholesalers at 968 Laconia Road in the Resort Commercial District, U1/4. Welcome back.
Said that.
Naturally.
All right, we have an application for the site plan approval. I looked at this earlier, it looks okay to me.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the application for, what is it? Case number 12-10 for your auto wholesalers, as it appears to be substantially complete. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Let me see request for the record. This is my name.
Okay.
Introduce myself. I'm a hydrologist at Geotech LLC and Iceberg Slab Design. We are working as consultants to Robert Rook, who is the engineer of the record, professional engineer of New Hampshire, and with Mike Syriakis, who is soil scientist for this project. Madam Chair, can I ask you something about the completion? We put on the application that we didn't have in hand a review from fire department. My question is, have you received that review?
No, I have not received a review from the fire department yet, no.
So that would be one item that is missing on the list. Okay.
Gus, can you follow up on that tomorrow,
Yes,
please?
yes.
And will you let him know?
Yes.
Okay.
We can make it a condition.
So this application is about site plan and more or less, some of you remember this project. We were here a month ago, I believe, doing a lot line adjustment. This is owned by Mark T. Moore, doing business as Auto Wholesalers, location is 968 Laconia Road, Tilton. The property is about half acre, 0.4 acre, and split between two towns. Your jurisdiction is the frontage and about 1,500 square feet. The lot line adjustment, as you recall, we were moving this lot line to the east, this way is north, to the east, in order to accommodate all the improvements on site. Now, part of the lot line adjustment, we gained about 153 square feet. Is it? How much did we gain by adjusting the line in Tilton?
Well, it was like only
Small square feet.
54 square feet.
It was just a little triangle plan we gained in this location. Property is located in a resort commercial RC zone. We went in April and May through ZBA hearings, receiving conditional variance to conduct our business in RC zone. The conditions and statements from the ZBA are in note 12 and 13 on our set. In the meantime, between ZBA and lot line adjustment, we applied for driveway permit to New Hampshire DOT, and we have received that a few days ago. So I have a few copies if somebody wants to read about that, and I will put one copy for the record. It contains typical standard conditions of driveway permit. Involves the frontage. The existing drive is depicted on our plan. This is one side, and this is the other side. It wasn't wide enough to accommodate traffic through the site. So what we are proposing to remove this grass area, pave it, and create 30-foot opening, so you could have two cars coming and going without interfering. That works with the whole site circulation. Furthermore, we will maintain paved area along the frontage, and that will be designated as display area. In Sunburton, we are doing site plan process, and the green areas are the areas we have to remove pavement. That's why we are in need of the frontage for display. In addition to our driveway permit, we have submitted, and I'm sure you have that in your packet, it's a sketch of signage. That's a commercial sign we will be putting in this corner. Currently, there's a display on the building which is not permitted under some regulations, so we are creating a brand new sign. That property never had signs, so we are putting it right here. We were showing that it complies with your regulations because it's located, the footing is in Tilton. Even part of the display will go over the boundary line. There will be 40 square feet max, 20 square feet each side. Internal illumination, maximum intensity as per your regulations will be 1800 lumens per 15 square feet. There will be, we are planning to put in a solar panel instead of connecting with overhead. And the illumination will be on photocell timer between dusk and 11 p.m. The color design and the specific design But that sign will be submitted with sign application, so we just have a site plan sketch for your approval. Now, in addition to that, the site has septic on site, water is on site, buildings are heated internally. One is a garage, the other one is an existing building as a residence. And as a part of our improvement, we are constructing infiltration facility which will be treating any runoff. So nothing is discharging off-site, everything is treated and infiltrated. That facility will be reviewed. Sunburton requested special review on that facility. It will be done before the next hearing, and on top of it, it will be registered with the state because it's in the aquifer protection.
That could be done by 8, oh, I thought it was gonna be done by 8/24. Okay, never mind. Never mind, that's when Sanberton called to let us know it was 8/24, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this is, in summary, what the portion of your jurisdiction is, that was our application's all about. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
How close to the front property line are you going to be displaying cars?
Talking about right away, the lot line, the frontage, how close?
Yes.
Well, this is all paved, so we're gonna be placing the cars in here,
Mm-hmm.
staking them up.
But are you going to run them right up to the property line?
Yeah.
Or setback?
Yes. Well, the setback, the entire portion is a setback.
Well, I understand that, but I just meant, are you going to have the cars set
Yes,
back a little bit?
Yes, that's what we, well, yeah, we have to because of the snow and separation, but,
Right.
you know, it's, car is a certain length, this is 20 feet.
Right.
So when you put the cars in here, we have to keep this open, that's a DOT condition
Right.
on the part.
Yes.
Yes. If you're concerned about snow removal, this is all paved, and then in the back, you see all this area is designated snow storage.
Mhm.
So the plowing into back is simple, exceeds, the owner has a contract for snow removal.
What provisions are being made to assure that the parked cars in front of the house do not get into the roadway, do not
Oh, it's
extend
a-
beyond where they should?
The demarcation line that will be put on. We have to keep them because it's paved, and there is, are we gonna be setting corners too, correct?
What's
It's a
that?
condition setting corners of the property,
Yes.
which are not, so that is one. There is a town bound, so you have a demarcation line clearly visible, so you cannot park them
Well,
across the line.
I'm talking about, is there any kind of
Barrier?
a physical barrier there to prevent
No,
the cars
see that,
from
when we came to this.
extending into the road?
I understand what you're saying. Physical barrier, it's a display area, it's paved. It was paved because DOT had a problem with drainage, and this is topographically, this is the lowest point. There's a high point on the road here, high point over here. Everything slopes into this point. So this was paved. Before it was paved, it was causing a problem in flooding on the road. So the discussion with DOT and the owner agreed, they will pave it and collect everything, and it was paved now and collect to a low point and treat it. So what kind of physical barrier, if we put anything in there, we cannot move the cars in and out because of the restriction, not to be here, not to use right away, and there's a building where we have 20 feet. So you could physically drive and get in, but you cannot place it. So for display area, this is the best location for business.
And you say it's 20 feet there?
Yeah, so The display is about 21 feet across.
But that's not enough for a large car.
Large
Certainly
car
not
truck
enough
is
for
what,
for-
18, 20 feet?
Hmm?
18, 20 feet.
No. A Cadillac is 23 feet and more.
Not today's Cadillac, Bob.
No,
Okay.
no, today's,
They've shrunk them down.
Hmm?
Today's
They're not as long as they used
Yeah,
to be.
they're small and much. There's a dealer, what's the biggest truck or pickups these days?
Usually about 18 and a half feet.
18 and a
My
half.
car is 23 feet long.
Yeah, but that's
Your car
unusual.
gets 6 miles per gallon, so.
We will designate a special parking spot for your car.
And I assume.
Cars like that, we have a display on the side right here. That's
Okay, so
200
you
feet long.
do, you do have a way to accommodate cars which are so long
Oh,
that
yeah.
there would be a problem.
That's here, if you have an oversized truck or
Yeah.
elongated or a classic car.
So
over
you
20,
just
yeah,
don't-
we have a
you just
display
don't
area.
put
This
any
is not
cars
the
in
only
there.
area. That's
Okay.
correct, yes.
And all your visitor parking will be in the back?
That's in here, visitor parking, handicap, and bikes. And open circulation.
Well, that's good, because before
And
there was an
pedestrians,
issue.
in case that they come in, I mean, you have a protected walk. This is the only area which is sort of close if somebody was driving.
Yeah.
But then we have a designated walk to this display in the back.
Yeah.
And nothing parks, this is for deliveries on the side and up front. Nobody should park here, because that's where the garage is for inspections. And this would be landscape. I mean, that's a multi-stage infiltration, which is wetland with special structures, treatment and all that. So there will be landscaping here.
I'm sorry, what were the conditions from the zoning board?
oh, I included that section.
I don't.
Oh, I thought I included that.
See it?
No, you didn't put it in with the paperwork.
No.
Oh, maybe that was another one. I can get it back. I need it.
No, I just, you could just read them.
Just read them
Okay,
to us.
so we had two cases. One was dimensional table, and that comes back to your question. You are hereby notified that appeal of Jigara Auto Wholesalers for a variance from Article 7, table of dimensional values of the zoning ordinance to permit the display of motor vehicles within the frontage setback in resort commercial district. That is in here because the setback is 35 feet, so the entire
Right.
piece is setback. And it's not required, that's the one. And the other case was requesting the, what's that for? Variance from Article 6, chart of permitted uses, section G1 of the zoning ordinance to permit the sale of motor vehicles within the resort commercial district. That was granted. Well, it's displayed, the sale is happening here, but it's a business, so it's. And the condition on that is, should the variance cease to be utilized for 1 year, it will expire and become void. So if they don't sell car for 1 year, you lose the variance. So that's the 1 year.
Are there any conditions placed upon this parcel by the town of Samerton?
ZBA condition was, because it's almost 80+% paved, to remove pavement, go to 60%, which is permitted in that zone, actually doing, and have zero runoff of this property and treat it. And that's what we are complying with. Planning board conditions, we don't know, we are still in process, we're waiting for the final review and final.
Yuri, this shows the conditions of the zoning from Sam, that's what he was
You are
saying.
hereby notified your request for variance from Article 12, Section D, etc. Zoning order has been granted with conditions as presented by unanimous vote. The variance allows you to have surface covering up to 60%, which we have, and the conditions are as follows. Approval and completion of lot line adjustment according to submitted plans, and that we done. We have both towns lot line adjustment, continued and properly maintained infiltration system, which is this. Runoff from any impervious area from the pavement and whatever comes into our site must be contained and treated on the property. Oh, thanks, sorry. Yeah. We have that one.
So I'm showing on that one again where the sign is going to be. Okay, yeah.
So that's the
I
only-
thought that was it, but this is so
Yeah.
tiny. My glasses are in my bag. Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Is that not candy?
Probably,
Better than eating candy.
yeah.
They're removing and protecting trees, I see, should we get into discussion?
If you do, I'll grab my purse and go and go.
Yeah, we'll all leave. I think we've discussed trees enough for the day. Besides, most of them in San Francisco. They're there to
You
restore.
know, all of that, except that one little piece, that's why.
Yeah.
How wide is the driveway now? Cut?
The existing driveway is about 18, not quite 18 feet. And it's gonna be 30.
We're looking at
Yeah,
30, okay.
15, 15, so, yes.
That's good.
Yeah, because it's a commercial, if it was a residential, we don't need it. It's a commercial uninterrupting egress and, yeah.
Have you opened to the public yet?
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh, no, I didn't know. Okay, any public have any comments? Any members of the public here? Close it to the public?
Anybody got anything else before I say something?
You can say something.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve case 12-10 for Guyer for a site plan with the following conditions: compliance with state fire codes and compliance with the Tilton signage regulations. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No
It's not a
idea.
bad thing to have to wait a couple hours.
Yeah. Let's say you had
You're
no
worn
idea how long
down.
you were.
You
Well,
sure you don't wanna
considering we
talk,
got this little triangle, I mean, come on.
No, it's
Something
not the
to be
whole big
discussed.
space. It's,
you sure you don't wanna talk to us about your tree removal?
I wasn't here for that, so could we open that
Oh,
discussion?
please.
Well,
Go
I'm
home
moving
right now,
2 trees, but we are planting along that.
You can watch it online.
I got pretty
She's
fire.
watch it online.
gonna run straight for that video.
You're a lucky man, I'll tell you.
We worked hard at it.
Yes. Came in with all your eyes dotted and your teeth.
Right,
You too.
makes a
Dawn,
difference.
Make a big difference.
did you get the lot line adjustment signed by,
We
San
gave it to them, I think they're waiting for some fees. We gave it to Bob Ward, and I think, hey Phil? Bob Ward is still waiting for a fee before he can record the plan.
Yes, Bob sent me an email, he has everything except the fee, and Jeff's gonna get him a check tomorrow.
Okay, I just was wondering, I hadn't seen it
So that should
online.
be recorded, and then we'll.
I signed those right away though.
Oh, yeah, she was very nice.
Where was I? You came.
You were at the
Senior
senior
center.
center.
You had your hat on.
Yeah.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
All right. Now,
Okay.
all right, well, let's go over quickly. We can't go over quickly, we got 25 more minutes for a public hearing. Can we close it? Close it? We're gonna close the
There's
public
no-
hearing.
Who's here?
We can
We
close.
can close the public hearing. All right, minutes of August 24th.
Oh, if we close the public hearing, I would like to make a motion to accept the subdivision changes and the changes to the driveway, the construction to build on the driveway permit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Before we do, everybody has its own handout.
No, I
She gave
had a
them
wrong
back
page
because
somewhere,
she's
I've gotta go
missing-
back and relook
Missing a
it.
page. Or two.
Oh, 'cause I want that,
I know, and I'll give it to you.
I'm gonna take that.
Oh, look, I believe I have the whole book on grandfathering at home. If I do, I'll bring it in.
This was in May of 2008, and I think
Yeah,
it's in
that
the town and
was,
city.
Yeah, an article in the magazine, but
Yeah.
Do a pamphlet online.
yeah, there is a pamphlet online.
There is, okay. Here, I have made copies of all the minutes if anybody needs them again.
No, which grab your copy, please.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
May I?
I think that's only from all the-
That's
you
what
just pass that in.
Really? I actually couldn't read it.
Okay, you can't either.
I was,
What?
well, Jesus, oh, okay, I've got a couple.
Oh,
I like your numbers on the back, what were you doing there?
Oh, we had several people come out today and say that the pins weren't working in booths. So I went through and I went to each booth and I used a pen and I wrote, and it's like, they all work.
What it is
Some
they
people-
didn't
Some
want
people
to
didn't
have to
figure
be
out
that
that you have to
Pull the cap
pull them
off.
apart.
are you serious? They hadn't pulled the cap
The
off?
reason I tell you that is because I had that problem to begin with, and I finally figured it out. These
How long did it take you,
These
Bob?
pens fooled you.
Yeah.
Oh, probably 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Well.
All right, I'd like to make a motion
I'm
to
old.
bring the minutes.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm old too,
everybody
but
else is doing it, it's like,
I know
think
you're
about these
talking about your
people
Cadillac.
voting.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'd like to bring the minutes of August 28, 2012 to the floor for discussion and ultimate approval.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I can't, what do I do with them?
All right, I'll start while you look for yours.
I found it.
Okay,
All right, I found the first paragraph. In order. I can't read my writing now.
To do that,
Yeah, in order to do that,
where are you?
to do
It's
this.
in the paragraph that's under number 2 that
Yeah.
says Chairman Alden explained.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, and down next to the last sentence, okay? Next to the last sentence. In order to do this, the board must reopen, so change in order to do this.
do this, not that.
Yes.
Okay.
well, I
And
put,
right above that,
In order to.
attorneys is plural, not possessive.
Okay, on your same sentence there, I put, in order to reconsider the condition, hang on, to reconsider the two conditions. You know, I just explained it a little bit because it just said in order to do that, or do this. To reconsider the two conditions, the board must reopen the reconsideration and hold a public hearing.
Well, I didn't do that because it said in the sentence before, it was decided the board should discuss removing these two conditions, so that's why I didn't
That lists
redo it.
one and
Yeah.
two.
Removing those two conditions, not these two
Right.
conditions.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
you're right.
Okay, now, are we doing I or are we doing we? Because on the next
It's
line.
the chair.
Well, I put Chairman Alden stated
Okay.
she would entertain a motion
Okay.
to reconsider the two conditions
Yeah.
and would hold a public hearing, and to hold a public hearing.
And to, I have it, that's exactly how I have it, except I
Okay.
had the chair, not chairman, and all the. That was too long to write.
Right. I also put in, now, you may, you know, you don't have to do this, I know this is actually the way it happened, but the board may not realize that this is the way it happened. I put after the discussion, the two attorneys decided, the board decided to ask the selectmen to speak with the planning board about reconsideration and removal of the conditions related to the drainage. Because that's really what happened. This Attorney Crean.
Right. Why can't we just put upon, recommendation of council,
Yes,
a motion was made?
very good.
How's that?
Yep, sounds good.
That's what happened.
Recommendation from council.
I don't know.
They're calling for information on the
Oh,
election.
probably, and it's
probably, reports.
Yes, it is. It always was. Okay, the only other change I made on the first page is number 1, where it says conceptual discussion of the property located at 285 Laconia Road.
Yeah.
I just changed it to read, the individual that was scheduled to address the board conceptually called earlier to let the board know he would not be attending.
Fine.
And
I
I
had,
thought at the top in the agenda discussion, shouldn't it be discussion on forming a CIP committee? Or about forming a CIP committee instead of just discussion of forming?
I don't think it matters, but.
Okay,
It's just a.
I, down under those two conditions,
yep,
I had Ms. Plessner crossed out motion. It says Ms. Plessner motion made a motion.
Oh,
oh, yeah.
oh, yeah, I had already fixed that, I
All
had
right.
found that.
Then over on page 2,
Yep,
the first, where it says zoning regulations, colon,
yep,
the board spent time.
yep.
Oh, with the two.
Yeah. And then, next paragraph, the chairman suggested the board should do more research to define setbacks.
No, I just put, think about how they want to define
Alright.
setbacks, either way.
Yeah.
And also at the top, it just says law lecture series brochure, and then I put lectures start in September in Laconia. If anyone is interested in attending, please contact Catherine Wilson.
All right.
And the next line, next paragraph under zoning, I just put, some of the items the board discussed include, and then the parking, clarifying number 2, blah, blah, blah.
Include, oh.
Under master plan,
Yep,
the chairman stated the natural resource chapter was given to the Conservation Commission for review at their next meeting.
yep.
then I changed all that other stuff to say, this portion will be completed in September.
Yeah, that basically said the
Okay.
same thing.
And then in the next paragraph, Chairman Alden asked if there has been anyone interested.
Right.
And that's all I had.
Yep. I think that takes care of them.
Anybody else got anything?
Up above, where it said the board spent, but the last line, it said needed to be changed, and I didn't get that one. The signage regulation to see what, if anything, needed or needs to be changed.
Yes.
Needs?
Needs.
Needs.
All right.
I move that we accept the minutes of August 28th, 2012. It says 28 on here.
Where am I going? Oh,
It is 28.
Yeah.
it says 24.
As corrected.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, do we have any correspondence forward?
We have a few things, yeah. We have a few things here. Here you go, Jane. There's just a couple things. There's an email in there from a butter to Doubleday Woodworking that has an issue.
What happened to TLC Jewelry?
They decided to not come. They canceled
They'll be here next week.
next month.
Next week.
We also have a change of use application to review.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
This is all right. This is addressed to Augusta Marsh. Augusta, I had attended the meeting on February 14th, 2012. There was an approval for Mr. William Doubleday to open a woodworking shop and showroom at 496 Laconia Road. If you review the tape, he made many promises which were not kept. There was to be a dust-free showroom, no noise outside, and no smell. It is now 6 months later. There is no dust-free showroom as promised. They are working with all doors and windows open, very noisy. They are spraying hazardous lacquers and paints that have an awful smell. This is not a place to have a woodworking shop between two restaurants. Please have the building inspector do a follow-up inspection. This business should be shut down or moved until all promises are kept. Signed, thank you, concerned property owner.
Who's it from?
I'm sure it's from Meltaway, they're the ones who came in,
Yeah.
but wouldn't sign
It
it
is.
before.
But the town has a policy.
But we won't do a thing until we find out who's complaining.
Right.
And what is interesting,
I had attached what the notice of decision was on the back of it.
okay,
That's just a copy of it after it was
Yeah.
on the computer, I just printed it out.
yeah,
But the town's always had a policy, if you don't sign it, we don't do anything about it.
exactly.
I'll email him back and tell him that, you know, unless you're willing to,
Identify yourself.
I did,
Because
identify
we have
yourself.
no idea. I mean, we may be able to figure out who it is, but he, you know, but anytime we get letters of complaints about anyone, we don't acknowledge them at all if they're not willing to sign the word.
I did ask Al to go up and just look at Double Days and see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been, I asked him to.
Did you give them the approval and any conditions that were
Yeah.
part of it?
Plain without.
Yeah.
But also, that middle stretch in there does have some issues, not just Doubleday.
Right,
There's some signage issues,
At Meltaway.
yeah,
and Shiloh's is beyond their temporary sign for their entrance.
yeah.
So that whole little
Oh,
area.
they put in a permit for their new sign for the entrance.
Yeah, but that old one's still sitting there up on.
I know that he just got the sign permit is just in here, I don't know if it's been signed or not yet.
And
For the-
I believe
That's
that
per DOT though, that entrance sign needs to be for
that
DOT.
signage for Lucky Lenny's, that steel structure, that hasn't come down yet, has it?
I don't know,
Well, that needs to come down, because he told us that would come down, if you will recall.
Oh, I
Because that was Meltaway's big issue, was
Well, that
that
he was gonna
Lucky
clean it up, there
Lenny's,
was
yeah,
something in the,
and he was going to do that.
but the interim Meltaway has added quite a bit more frontage up there.
I'm interested in some of the wording in that complaint. It seems to me that the person who wrote that was under the impression that these specific promises were made to the town office.
Mm-hmm. No, to the planning
To the
board.
planning
To the,
board.
well, to the planning board, was that, does that also mean that that was, that those promises were made and should be monitored by the inspector?
Yes.
And I think this person is saying the inspector isn't doing his job.
Well, these were,
Read that into the letter.
They,
these were the conditions of approval. Now, it is up to, at this point, the code enforcement officer will take the conditions of approval and go out to the site, and if he has not done everything that was part of his conditions of approval, then he is expected to correct it.
yeah, but I think this person is saying that the inspector hasn't checked to see if these things were done.
Well, I mean, whether he is or it isn't, obviously, they weren't done because he's operating apparently without the air filtration system and everything else.
Mhm.
But we
So,
just don't act on an anonymous letter, Bob, that's
Yes.
the thing.
now, Gus did say she asked Al to go out and check the site and see, because sometimes you go out to the site and they have done everything they were supposed to do. It's just that somebody has a bone to pick, is out for revenge on something, and they say something that you get out there and it's like, well, what's his problem? Everything's been done that was said to be done. Or you might get out there and maybe it wasn't done. You know, we won't know until Al makes the trip. And if he hasn't taken care of his conditions of approval, he will have to, or he'll get a cease and desist from the court, which tells him you're out of business until you fix it.
And there was nothing at all on those conditions on smell or,
No, that would have
No,
all
is
been
it
in the
all?
minutes. I don't know, I don't remember what the conditions of approval.
dust-free, some kind of a dust-free downdraft
Yeah.
system, but.
Yeah.
But he went into great detail to
Oh,
explain
yeah.
about his
Really,
there
filtration
wasn't
system
much.
and all
Right.
that.
Yeah, the point is, the first time that we got a complaint from the man, he
Right.
didn't sign it,
Right,
and he just appeared at the meeting with complaints.
yes.
And, you know, I think that we, in good conscience, can take no action when the selectmen, the town has a policy on not reacting to anonymous complaints.
Right.
That would be like me making an anonymous phone call and saying,
My
Something.
neighbor is.
yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it does happen, it's amazing, you wouldn't think this, but over the course of years, I have seen many people call, and their sole purpose on that phone call is to get even with a neighbor and cause problems for them when you get out there and it's like, there's nothing going on. So before we just assume that Doubleday has not done all of its things, that's what Al's purpose now is, to go out there and check for
Yeah.
himself to see if they've been done or if they haven't been done. Because we all know that the anonymous individual did finally come to the meeting and he didn't want him there, period.
Oh, no, he didn't want that wood shop between two restaurants. That's a
Right.
horrible place to put it, it's like.
So, you know, all the detail went into describing how the filtration system would take things away and that it wasn't really that loud, and now he's giving all these complaints that it's dusty and there's, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, we won't know until
I mean,
goes out.
he's talking about a dust-free showroom. What difference does that make? It's
Yeah.
inside the building.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
I
And
I
will
do
Al
know
go out
from
unless
Shiloh's.
This person signs.
No, Al will go out and look regardless. It's
yeah.
just that the planning board would not take any action if he's not willing to.
I'll email him and say, you know, the planning board can't move forward unless you
Okay.
You know,
sign
sign your work.
sign your, sign
That we
my
don't,
email.
I suspect, and I know this from the Shiloh, he eats lunch at the Shiloh every day.
Why didn't he eat it at his own place?
What? No,
It was
no.
a wood shop.
You mean beach?
He's
No,
not a
I thought
termite.
she was getting at the anonymous.
No, Bill, I've been there
Yeah,
for lunch, and
Bill Doubleday eats there.
Bill's there, and they said, oh, Billy eats here every day for
Yeah.
lunch. So I suspect there's some competition going on.
You mean you see me eat more ice cream?
Yeah. All right, we have a driveway permit, finally, for Zaremba.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people who are doing, the Dollar General.
Oh, wow, finally.
Yeah.
Wondering if that was ever gonna go through.
Okay, so that has gone through.
And they're also gonna put in a well.
They're putting in a well, yes.
But they have to have a connection.
And, one of the water commissioners called me
Yeah.
and said, well, they'll have contaminated water, however, they don't have a restaurant, they don't serve food, they just need it for their toilets, so it doesn't really matter.
After everything.
Well, hand wash.
Here's the Town of Belmont, the zoning board of adjustment,
It's just a notification.
just a notification.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and that's it. Nothing
All
beyond
the
that point.
correspondence beyond this point, nothing. All right.
Are you going to send Samerton, like our notice of decision on this particular
Yep, I will
case?
give it to him, yep.
Okay.
All right. What do we have next?
We have next is, change of use application.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
You have,
Yep. And I have copies for everybody so they can read them or whatever. I hope I
Okay.
have enough copies for everybody. Thank you.
do you have John Bernard's case? Do you have all the cases from me?
Yes. I have put them away.
Oh, I put John Bernard's over there because it happened to be down here when we finished.
Yeah, okay.
And I
Well,
put it
I
on my
couldn't find
desk.
it when we finished, and I was getting worried, I thought maybe somebody took it.
No, I remember you had passed it down to me and it ended
Okay.
up staying
It's
down.
gonna be another 3 inches thicker, just talking about trees.
Yes.
All right, this is for 267 Main Street.
Which building is this?
I don't know.
Polly's.
Polly?
Well, I built that strip of buildings with Polly's, one storefronts.
Okay, one of the storefronts.
He
by
had
Polly's.
271, but the building is all 267.
Okay. So it's one of the empty storefronts in the
That
Polly's
Ella's, no, Eli's.
Eli's
attic.
Eli's, okay.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not, there's a sign there.
Yeah.
Activities that will occur outside of the structure, none. Exterior repairs,
I made copies if everybody wants to
okay,
read
oh,
them.
okay. All right, I thought that was something else I had
No.
to go over. The fascia,
I don't know if I have enough, but
fascia
have to share.
mounted sign, not laminated, display.
you guys can share.
I'm having trouble reading this writing.
I know.
Fascia mounted sign, now laminating, displaying. I haven't a clue.
Which one is it?
Fascia mounted sign, non-laminated, illuminated,
Not
Okay.
illuminated.
Not illuminated. No,
non-illuminated.
sign non-lumin,
No, it's I, that's an I-L-U,
okay.
they misspelled illumination.
Okay, that's why I said laminated, non-laminated, okay.
Oh, it's on the second page.
All right.
Well,
Displaying
I
what?
couldn't find it. Oh, there it is.
Looks like light.
Life
Mounted
events,
sign, non-illuminated.
yeah, life events,
Yeah, that's the name of the
Full
real estate
service
office.
independent real estate office.
okay.
Displaying light.
That's not Eli's.
He wants it in the back of Eli's. He's the same
Oh.
person, but he wants to
Okay.
do the real estate in the back.
Okay.
Sign, he's putting a real estate office in the back of the building. He's,
He just wants to have his business in the back, you know,
So
And-
one address, two businesses, basically.
right, two businesses.
okay.
One being a,
I am currently the owner.
Kind of like having a bakery and a real estate business on the
Yeah.
same property, and,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
I don't
nobody in
know. Those are
town
two
that does
separate
that.
Those are two separate buildings.
Well, these are in
Separate addresses.
two separate rooms.
Yeah.
Two separate addresses.
I personally don't see an issue with it.
I don't see an issue, it's not gonna change the traffic, it's not gonna be more
No.
people,
Right.
no, I think it's fine.
The only thing I would say, which is going to happen anyway, as soon as he sets up, he needs a CO, which will require
Oh, yeah,
fires.
and he has a sign, he has some stuff in here already for that too.
And also, well, I know Al will make sure that his sign is
Mhm.
compliant with
Yeah.
our regs. So I would say
I don't have a
it's-
problem with that at
no,
all.
Me neither.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Uh-oh.
Alright, good.
No.
Alright, we're all very tired. What else do we have? We have the zoning regulations. I'm too tired to do
Yeah,
that
we'll
tonight.
just-
Do those when
We'll
we
just
meet
put them
next.
there if we have the time and we do,
Yeah.
you know.
And please, unless we have the world coming down, let's not fill up that next meeting. Let's get the,
Well, really, the
Oh, the next meeting is on,
that's our
the
work.
25th.
Yeah, that's our work meeting.
It's a work meeting. The only thing I've got on it right now is one conceptual for a person looking to purchase Sherryland Trailer Park, and I want him to come in and talk to the board. He has some ideas, and I think it's best that he bounces them off the board.
Well, I don't mind conceptuals because we're not trying to go over all the information and come up with some kind of an, an approval. He tells us what he wants to do and we laugh at him and send him home.
I wonder how many trees he must have cut.
Okay, adjourn the meeting. Please.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.